everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. My name is Ben Hansen. Thank you for being here. I'm joined by one Haley McLean.
Play a video game.
I'm joined by Jacob Keller with his song.
Summertime, sadness.
And Kelsey Lewin.
I don't have a song.
That's probably lyrics
Lana
somewhere.
Del Rey song.
Jingle bells, jingle
Yeah,
bells.
Lana, go, Lana, go. And we're joined by Michael Huber.
Video games are the best.
Whoa, an original ditty from Huber.
Wow.
Thank you all for being here. We got a lot that we need to unpack in this episode. If you're watching this, you might have noticed my background is different. I technically moved. I'm still building up everything in this house, including the new MinnMax studio. That's probably going to be a couple months away, but for solo podcasting space, let me know how I look. Let me know how I sound, audio people. If you're really finely attuned, you can probably hear a difference, and I'm still keen on dialing things in. So let me know if there's too much of an echo, if I can do anything to improve your audio experience. But thanks everybody for being patient with this transition here.
I'm stuck on technically moved. What is it to like theoretically move but not technically move?
I don't know. You don't.
Brain's still at his old house.
My brain and my heart. I mean, it's still like boxes strewn all around. There's like a couch tipped upside down as we're putting the legs on in the living room. I don't know where
It's just
any.
like normal though. That's like normal moving stuff.
I guess so. I feel like we have moved. It has like a finality to it. Whereas just, I feel like we now park our cars in a different spot and sleep in a different bedroom, but technically I don't feel like I've moved emotionally yet. You know,
I feel like you could go back into your old house and no one would scream at you, and because it's still kind of yours.
yeah, I'm just gonna go sleep on the hardwood floor back home, and it'd be super cozy. But on this episode of this very podcast, the one you're watching or listening to, we are gonna be talking about Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. It's been a long time coming, friends, but we're gonna unpack everything.
The official title is Senua's Saga and then Hellblade 2.
I thought that was weird as well.
Yeah,
Like if it was called like Parabellum: John Wick 3.
but I think it's that classic thing of like they want to get new people in the door. And so if you lead with something, maybe people will only read half of the title and be like, Senua's Saga, new IP. It's a great entry point. The end.
I think drop the Hellblade personally. I don't think Hellblade should be in the
Or
title.
the 2. I mean, it's like God of War Ragnarok wasn't called God of War 2 Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2 is going to throw people off every time there. But this would bother me. I don't even know if there's a physical edition for this, but this would bother me if I was trying to put two of them next to each other on a shelf and one of them said Hellblade and the other one started with an S, Senua.
They're supposed to be doing a limited run games release.
Oh, really?
I hope they fix the title.
Yeah, they need to work on it. It is weird, too. There's 1,000 things interesting with Hellblade 2, which we're going to talk about a little bit. I just want to get this one part out. I feel like people forgot along the way, because we're so used to Hellblade, that it's called Hellblade as an homage to Heavenly Sword on PS3. And now that it's an Xbox title, it's just weird that Hellblade, Heavenly Sword, that everyone kind of forgot about the PS3 roots for the name reference, I guess.
I had no idea about that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just because the blade she got in hell.
I mean,
and
that's
it's funny
probably
because
also a reason.
it's like a moving story of a woman grappling with inner demons based on an Easter egg from a game we made that no one remembers.
Well, I am so curious to hear what everyone in the world thinks about Hellblade 2, so we can talk about that. We might talk a little bit about what the best looking game of all time is. Jacob had a tweet about it, and it got me thinking about it too. There's a game called 1000xResist, which feels like one of those games that, you know, you'll see it somewhere in a list and be like, I'm sure that's good. Moving on. But thankfully we have Jacob and Kelsey here to be like, no, stop. We absolutely need to talk about this game called 1000xResist. So I'm looking forward to unpacking that. Crow Country, the throwback survival horror experience. Huber and I have been playing that. Huber is the expert, so we're going to talk about all that stuff. And then back half of the show, we have some wonderful questions and comments submitted by people over on Patreon. So shout out to everybody for throwing in. I think we had like 140 something questions this week, which it only makes the show better. If we just whittle it down to our favorites, like no harm done, it only makes for a more interesting show if you give us more options. So I greatly appreciate everybody throwing out some good stuff there. Also, if you're listening to this saying, why aren't these morons talking about Paper Mario, the 1000-Year Door? Because it's clearly the best game ever made. I agree. I think it's one of them. I really love Paper Mario, the 1000-Year Door. But Kyle Hilliard has played through it. He's going to be joining us next week to talk about it a little bit because he's the only one who's played it. So obviously we all love the game. And it seems like it's a great version on Switch here for the remake. Kelsey, you feel like a Paper Mario 1000-Year Door person, and please don't take offense at that.
No, I've actually just never beat it, so I'm excited to finally go do that with this. So I do plan on playing it to completion this time. I never owned it as a kid. I borrowed it, and so I never got all the way through.
It's longer than you think. It's over 30 hours for getting through that, especially compared to the first one, which is pretty breezy, but still so damn good. So I'm excited to have a whole new generation of people checking that out. But let's talk about this thing. Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. We are here, everybody. This is from Ninja Theory. The last game came out in 2017. That
blew my mind. I didn't realize it was that long ago.
So long.
7 years.
Breath
and it was
of the Wild year, the year the Switch came out.
Right.
What? That's crazy to me.
And I guess they released Bleeding Edge, that multiplayer game in between that not a lot of people talk about. But beloved studio, obviously, a lot of people love Heavenly Sword, of course. Enslaved. Huber, you feel like an enslaved person and take that in the spirit in which it's intended. Okay. Awesome.
Enslaved is one of the origins of swimming in sevens.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, where it's games don't need to be the best to be the best.
Or they don't need to be the best to have a lot of cool ideas that you're enthusiastic about. And also, Enslaved has one of the wildest endings of all time, where it's just, spoilers for Enslaved, it's just live action Andy Serkis talking to the player. It is so
You're
weird.
legally obligated to bring up the ending if you ever talk about Enslaved. You have to be pretty good game, good motion capture. Remember when live action Andy Serkis was you should build schools?
So good. But it's been a long time, but Hellblade 2 is here now. Here's the thing. There is, I think, a really fascinating conversation to have about Hellblade 2 in the context of Microsoft and the fact that Xbox has been through so many troubled waters recently, and it feels like there's an extra layer of scrutiny. I want to get to all that stuff because I'm really fascinated by that, but I think we should give the game its due, give the game the respect it deserves. So where are we all at with Hellblade 2? Haley, have you been playing it? I know you just played the first one not too long ago.
Yeah, I just finished it today, the second one.
Ooh, nice. Okay, Jacob, where are you at for Hellblade 2?
Yeah, I finished it 17 minutes ago, exactly when we were supposed to be meeting for our podcast. I was watching credits roll.
Whoa, wild. Huber, where are you at?
I finished as well.
Okay, great. I started it. Kelsey hasn't checked it out quite yet, but please jump in whenever you want to bring the conversation wherever you want to go, Kelsey. How is everybody feeling about Senua's Saga Hellblade 2?
Really pretty.
Really pretty?
Yeah, can we get
looking.
the elephant out of the room?
Yeah,
Best looking
kick
game
it out
ever
of
made,
it.
maybe?
Gorgeous.
No, that's a good question. Is it the best looking game ever made, Jacob? You had a waffly tweet about it.
I mean, it's obviously it's kind of a dumb question because art style is subjective. If we talk about it, it's I think the best looking game ever made is Okami or something, which is going for a very different thing than Hellblade 2. But within the world of ultra realism, volumetric lighting, all our kind of big buzzwords, playing this feels like it feels like watching an FMV in another game. It's you boot up Warcraft and you're oh my god, one day the game will look like this. And even Diablo 4, a modern game, you watch that FMV and you're this is still leagues beyond anything that we can do now. Hellblade feels like that. It feels like you are watching a pre-rendered scene with the level of detail in lighting and texture work and what the camera is doing with depth of field and all of these things where you just realize I've never seen a game do this thing quite this technically impressively.
Yeah, and it's such a weird spot too to have this being the Xbox flagship. Look at these visuals, and it's coming from a relatively small team. I think Ninja Theory's 80. Yeah, the old III model, right? But it's around 80 people, and for them to be working so many years on this game, for now a corporation like Microsoft to be look how good our games can look, everybody. It's a weird dynamic, but Huber, you rolled credits. Visually awesome. How are you feeling about the experience itself for Hellblade 2?
Really good.
Okay.
It definitely has its rough edges and its limitations. Some parts of the game feel kind of old. Part of that is because it's probably been in development for so long.
Yeah.
But I just think there's so many interesting conversations about what makes a good game with Hellblade, because like I've seen so much criticism about just kind of the linear nature of it, the smaller environments, you feel kind of like stuck in them. But I think the story and the presentation, the performances, like Senua herself gives such an epic performance. And like even the combat, even though it's really simple and it's always one-on-one, I still think it's like hard hitting enough and visceral enough to be like fun the entire game.
Yeah. I mean, this is the classic conundrum with Hellblade is, I visited Ninja Theory back in 2017, I think, the start of 2017 for a Game Informer cover story trip. And that was the big thing on the team, is them messaging like, we're not trying to make a fun game. And I remember even internally, some people in the studio were like, don't say that, for the love of God, we want people to play it. But that's still the fascinating thing of this game is like, well, we're making an experience. Is it fun?
And it totally is.
You think it's totally fun?
It kind of reminds me of like The Order, where it's this like first party, really short, incredible looking game with like mediocre gameplay.
Right.
But it still is more than the sum of its parts because of the visuals, the presentation, the acting, the lore, the characters, like the story. All of that comes together for me to make it better than like I said, the sum of its parts, just as a whole.
Yeah. So positive overall here.
Yeah.
Jacob Geller, where are you sitting with this thing?
I played Hellblade 1 for the second time last year for Something Rotten. We did like a Ninja Theory podcast. And one of the kind of interesting things about playing that pretty closely to this one is like Hellblade 1 is actually doing a lot more gameplay wise than Hellblade 2, which is not typically the way things go. Like Hellblade 1 has more styles of puzzles. It has like big bosses that you fight in a way that you don't here. It has combat with multiple enemies. The like level variety is larger. And so it's interesting that Hellblade 2 is actually, despite it being best looking game ever made, blah blah blah, like it's actually a smaller game in a lot of ways. And I don't think it suffers from that, but I do think it suffers a little from them kind of having worked stuff out in Hellblade 1. Like when the sequel was announced, I kind of wondered like, hey, how, the end of Hellblade 1 is Senua kind of comes to terms with what's going on in her head. Right. She's like, I'm never going to get rid of this, but it is not as torturous to me as it was at the beginning. And to Hellblade 2's credit, they don't walk that back. They don't like make her regress into needing to figure out this whole thing again. But because of that, I think the story actually has kind of a hard time like figuring out where exactly it wants to go. So like I enjoyed it. I think it is really cool, as if you basically think of it as like a walking simulator with combat sometimes. But weirdly, it feels less ambitious than Hellblade 1 in a lot of ways.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was surprised just how similar it is to Hellblade 1. I mean, where it's pretty early on. I remember I stopped playing Hellblade 1 several hours in, and Hellblade 2, once I got to the point of like, oh, we're lining up more runes. Like the reason I stopped playing the first game, you're lobbing that at us over and over again, even in the beginning of this game, where it's like, that's bold. I don't think this was the high point.
They make it significantly less annoying in this game than Hellblade. Like the puzzles have way less friction here in general, which is, I think, good because they're not that interesting. But also, it's like, well, there's even less gameplay because the puzzles are not hard to solve.
Right. And Haley, how you feeling?
So I came into it because I rolled credits on Hellblade 1 and then started Hellblade 2 like in the same sitting.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
I like it felt really easy to compare the two. So I was starting as I was playing 2. I have like a pros and cons list essentially just from the perspective of comparing it to 1, which is kind of like what Jacob's doing.
Yeah.
And it's honestly a lot of the same stuff. Like pros, it's insane looking. It looks great. The performances are near perfect. Like the woman who plays Senua carries the tone of the game on her back the entire time. She's fantastic. The subtitles are a lot better, which I noticed because I had subtitles on in Hellblade 1 and Hellblade 2, and they did a lot more fun stuff with like separate, like before it was kind of like it would just capture whichever voice in your head was the loudest and play that as a subtitle, but this time it actually has all the voices popping up at different times when they're talking. I was like, that's a great inclusion. I think that's really cool. The fighting feels better. The animations are better. When you slash into somebody, it feels more like you're hitting a human body with a sword than kind of any other game I've ever played. And there's so many unique animations that I actually purposefully died to see if I could save a girl one time, because there was a 1 second moment, and it never did this for me before, and she goes, help me, and I should have pressed square and I missed it and she got killed, and I was like, I wonder if I could save her. So I died, and you can save her, and then you push her off to the side, and then there's all these other instances. If you don't kill another guy fast enough, he ends up killing someone else on the side that could have lived if you had been faster. That doesn't really affect any story. It's just like a, where the character cares so much about not losing innocent lives, it feels impactful because it's something she cares about.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. I also think the voices are doing some more interesting things than they were in the first game, like calling me out, the player, for what I'm doing. Like there was one point where they go, oh my God, something's behind you. So I actually looked and turned my camera, and they go, it was nothing. I don't know. Well, never mind. And the first game never really did that. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like there's another time where I was messing up a puzzle, and it's like I was flowing with the puzzle, doing well, and then I kind of got stumped and did the wrong thing, and then they were like, oh, she doesn't know. See, she thought she knew, now she doesn't. I was like, shut up! Like it felt more connected with me as a player, and the first game didn't really do that as much.
Yeah.
But the cons for it, for me, the biggest thing is it kind of lost its magic from the first one. Like, it doesn't have that really fun gimmick in the first one where they say to you at the very start of the game, if you died too much, you have to start from scratch all over again, which made the stakes of the first one so fun for me.
Yeah.
I was panicked every time I died and she glanced at her arm and it was getting darker. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to restart this, especially because I was playing it like for this.
Yeah, it's
I don't
funny
want to
because
die and restart my save. I need to be more careful.
You mentioned that
So
on the
that felt
podcast when you were
good.
talking about Hellblade 1, like, oh my God, I'm so scared to die because I don't want to lose my save. And all of us are like, totally. Like, it's just amazing that you dodged. Like, oh no, that was just a lie they told back in 2017.
Yeah, we're spoiling that. Like,
Yeah.
and then it turns out that's not even true. And I was like, oh, what? So obviously that's why they're not doing it here again, which I totally get.
Sure.
But it was missing that undertone of like a purpose. And then the other annoying thing was I really felt like the first game had that really strong purpose for Senua of saving Dillian. And here they're doing the shifting goalpost thing, which I kind of hate, where it's like, oh, I want to go here to stop this guy. Oh, that guy has a dad. Oh, they're mad because of this. And I just am constantly moving forward, where I felt like the strength of the first one came from the kernel of drive moving Senua throughout the story, which had really great Norse mythology roots that also played into like why she was so driven. And this one's kind of just like Nathan Drake might as well be doing this, like why Senua?
Interesting.
And that really
Oh,
took
the
a lot
reason-
out for me.
Oh, the reason though for her voices I thought was so well done when it's like,
I kind of the last 40
Love
minutes
that.
are like the best part of the game, I think, but
But
the whole
yeah,
the first 4 hours up to that point, you're just kind of like, oh, it just feels like and again, and I didn't really care up to the near the ending point. Like,
I agree with you, Haley, because it starts kind of in media res, where like, Senua's her driving force, as you're given to understand it, is like slavers have been coming and like capturing her people, and so she's like on a boat, kind of like got herself captured intentionally to stop them. And so that's kind of her deal, but like that gets diverted pretty quickly, and even then it's just not as strong of a goal, and it's like in the first game it was like she has this task that feels impossible, and like you literally there's this like giant structure in the background that you're like walking to the whole game, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get up there and do it, or maybe I'm not because it's so hard. And this is like okay, yeah, she's gonna stop the slavers, but she gets distracted by giants, and like I guess we're doing something to figure out the secret of the giants, and then we're gonna go, and it doesn't feel as personal to her, which is a big deal in a game where the whole story is you're in her head and you're like experiencing what she feels. And so like it not having the same level of personal stakes, I think really hurts it until it finds them again, Michael, as you said, but it's in the last, just the last bit where it kind of like really figures out what those are.
Yeah, it's interesting to have her like interact with other characters this time around too, like other humans and stuff.
I love that.
Okay, yeah, I wonder if like
I don't know if I did.
Ooh, okay, that's the thing. Is like I wonder if like based on those interactions, she needs to be more of a heroic role, if she needs to have something to bounce off of, I guess, and that could be kind of influencing it, so she can't just be tormented soul again on her own.
Yeah. I loved the motivations actually, just because the first one was so personal. It was a personal story of her and Dillian and everything, and now this one, it's like the selflessness. She's like, at the end of the first one, she accepts those voices, and then now, listening to those, trying to help her people, just trying to like do more instead of focusing on just her own journey. I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah. I'm all for this game. I'm very happy Team Ninja is making something weird. It's so cool to see Microsoft getting behind something weird. This might be the most unpleasant game I've ever played. I just, like, I bounced off the first one after a while, like appreciating it a whole lot from the distance, but like starting this up, it's like, I can't think of anything I want to do less right now than play this game with a character slowly walking as voices are swirling around her and listening to mothers as their babies are being murdered, and then the only break from this is some gory combat where you're slowly shoving a sword into somebody. It's like, what? People are enjoying this? Like, I am amazed that you guys are all as on board as you are. God bless it. I'm happy it exists, but it's just
you want a cheerful game like Indica, right? That's what you're feeling like.
I mean, I would much, much, much rather play Indica than this. And like, I don't want to be the uptight guy of like, games should be fun. I'm not saying that, but I cannot play this thing. I gotta tap out.
I think the biggest letdown for me with this whole thing, because like obviously my expectations were so high because Hellblade 1 is epic and this is Microsoft's big game. This has been in development for so long. I think the biggest letdown is the combat.
Yeah.
Like Ninja Theory came from Heavenly Sword and even Enslaved is like pretty good combat, but then DMC as well. And like for a sequel, the gimmick of the voices is not going to hit as hard. The voices are way better in this game, but it's not original anymore. So I think other parts of the game needed to be better. And like the puzzles aren't anything special. Like Jacob, you said there's less friction. So everything is like more refined. But I just feel like if the combat was more ambitious in some way, I don't know what that looks like. Maybe just fighting like more enemies or like more variety or more like different combos. Just something more there with the combat, I think really could have elevated this entire game to another level.
I think you can really feel, as much as we've praised how good the game looks, I think you can feel them running into issues with their bar for visual fidelity and like animation smoothness and whatever is so high that like in Hellblade 1, there's this awesome fight where you fight like a giant like wolf underground, and it's like really cool and it's different and it's big and it has this whole new animation set, and it's like everything you fight here is basically like a biped that attacks with a sword or something. And so you can imagine like it's like this game took 6 years to make. If you added a boar boss fight, it feels like it would be like another 2 years. And like, there are a lot of things in the game where like it is, they want to be so cinematic that it really feels like they are kind of hamstrung by like what they can put in. And like, to have DMC level combat, you would have to accept some level of like animation canceling. And like, I don't think they're willing to give that up in a game that is this visually spectacular. Yeah. And so it is the downfall of this like hyper realistic style is it is so hard to make. And the more realistic it is, the kind of less flexibility maybe you can give your characters.
Yeah, and then even on top of that, their commitment to like, we don't want any UI in the game. Like, how complicated can it be if they don't have pop-up reminders of what's going on? It'd be weird to have the voices be like, remember the RT combo, and then hold down X. You can't do it. But I do love like that idea of no UI, but on the pause screen, we're just gonna have all the controls right there as a reminder, like as close as humanly possible to having UI on the screen. We're gonna give you that pause button right there.
The combat just kind of felt like there was one answer the whole time, which was fill your mirror up as fast as you can and focus and slash them and just do that over and over and over. Whereas the first one, it really felt like, oh, a shield guy. Oh, right. And you adjusted yourself to fight a shield guy. Like, oh, here's the guy that chucks things across the map. Adjust. Whereas now I'm just like, shield guy, dodge until full, hit him with square a few times. Next guy, do it again. Like, I'm playing with a PlayStation controller on PC. That's why I said square.
when you hit like an actual parry, and you don't just see like them bounce off each other, but you see like their swords actually connect, and then she pushes him off. You're like, maybe it's all worth it. Like maybe it's okay.
Yeah. Stab in the back, like her just like aggression and franticness. Sell the combat so hard.
Yeah, at times it just looks like you're fighting with lightsabers with all the parries and the blue and red everywhere. It's like, Jesus, this light, and they're going all out, but it makes it look interesting every time you get one.
And some battles go on for so long, it makes it feel like you are in like a Game of Thrones war where you're just like, I need a break. Too bad, 10 more dudes. You're like, oh, like it'll just go 10, 15, 20 more dudes than you think they're going to hit you with. And I think that adds to the atmosphere of what it would feel like to just be absolutely freaking exhausted. It's like another one. Oh my God. Okay.
There's a lot of the Northman movie DNA in this game. Like it really feels like in some of the fight scenes, it's like they saw that opening shot of the Northman and they were like, we're doing that. You're going to just see a guy catch a hatchet with his face and it's going to like happen off screen.
Is the game weird enough? Is it weird enough for you freaks? Like, I love that even in the beginning, they had plenty of like cool psychedelic imagery, kind of fractals, spirals, all that stuff. It's like, okay, this looks awesome. Does it keep building on that without spoiling anything?
There's some good weird stuff. I
You've
will
got
say
kind of
though,
big set pieces.
Yeah.
Cool
there's a couple just like portions of this game I don't even want to talk about because there's some portions that like are gonna stay with me because they're just so. They just draw you in. Like that's the best part of this game is when like you Hellblade 2, you've got to buy in. You as a player have to buy all into this game if you want to enjoy it because it's super easy to be cynical about it with just like the voices and like how bleak it is all the time and like, you know, kind of the small environments. Like you call it a walking simulator earlier, Jacob. It kind of is. Like my finger got tired from holding like the jog button because I was like,
okay, one of those
like,
games.
Keep going, like So,
yeah, that's an interesting way to phrase it. But thumbs up from all y'all. Okay.
Right there.
Okay. Kelsey, what do you make of that? Is that gonna make you run out and buy an Xbox?
No, and I'm in the same camp as you, where I never got into the first one because I'm like, I really do love a good story and a good atmosphere and stuff, but like a game has to like be also fun to play, and if my finger's getting tired from, you know, just even from the walking portion of it, and you know what you're describing with throwing 5 more enemies at you than you want to fight, I'm like, that just sounds like me not having a good time.
No, but that's the point. You're not supposed to have a good time. That's Hellblade, baby.
Okay.
It's the most fascinating. It's one of the most fascinating series now, I think, in the game industry. To think of like where Hellblade 1 started, like the crowdfunded thing from Ninja Theory is like, oh, we're doing our small side project, a triple I. Let's see if we can make a big budget independent game that's going to be weird and not fun. And I remember even on that trip, them talking about how important it was for them. Like the whole pitch here is they were sick of publishers and they wanted to own this IP. First and foremost, they said, it's a matter of principle. We will always own this IP. And then Microsoft came in and said, hey, we'll just buy the whole thing. And
everything's got a price.
It's such a weird idea then to think of like, I know this is overly simplistic, but I just cannot stop thinking about going from like that mentality of Ninja Theory now to having quote unquote Xbox fanboys, to the extent that any real hardcore console fanboys are out there, like picking up their own axe and going to fight for a game like Hellblade 2? Like, are there Gears of War fans from back on the 360 now who are like, this game is art, you need to respect it, this is better than God of War? It's just a fascinating journey for this thing, because it's just a weird, quirky, somber experience, right? But now all of the eyeballs for an entire company like Microsoft's gaming division are looking at this, and it's just a position that's not fair for this game to be in,
really
you know?
not.
No, it really, and it makes you worried for, it's like when Microsoft was picking up all these studios, when it bought Ninja Theory and Double Fine and Tango, we were like, oh, good. They'll be able to make more weird stuff without the pressure of having to keep their studio open, with only their own money.
Right.
And now that we've kind of seen that Microsoft is actually a company that just wants to see the line go up, spending $50 million to $100 million on a game about like a woman suffering from psychosis is like, I feel like some exec is gonna see that and be like, we did what? We can't do that again.
No, absolutely. It's like, what does the future look like? Like, obviously I'm rooting for Ninja Theory in a huge way. I want to support that team, those developers. At the same time, it's like, if you're Microsoft saying, okay, this is our investment, we wait another 7 years and get another one of these, a game that it doesn't make sense.
Long. It just took too long, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
I just love it. I have problems with it, but I just love this game, and I love the swing they took to like just make something like this, something that's just different. It is weird. Like, we have so many third person realistic action games, and at least this one is doing like something different there.
Yep. Nope. So. I'm totally with you on that front. It's just, it's interesting to see kind of the outcry of so many people being like, how dare you, Microsoft? You're not even marketing this. Where's the marketing for Hellblade 2? I hear you. It'd be great. I always want to see the actual marketing budget, because I feel like it's really tough from the outside to have a sense of like, you're not seeing everywhere they could be putting ads. Just because you're not seeing a YouTube ad that you skip after 5 seconds, you think there's no marketing. Like, it's tough to tell, right? But like, they can't run a commercial for this during an NBA game. I don't think they would want to, because I think if you're roping in just somebody who likes games fine enough and they jump in and play this game, they will hate it.
Vikings are pretty hot though, dude. Vikings are big time. You show some sick like sword Viking, people will do. NBA crowd, they'll buy in.
Okay, yeah, sure. They love Vikings.
Crowd's in for that.
I mean, Valhalla, Assassin's Creed sold a gazillion copies, right? I totally hear you. That's a far cry from if you have this game on Game Pass even and then boot it up. I feel like for people who boot this game up on Game Pass, 90% are going to be, what the hell is this? I don't want to play this anymore.
As soon as the whispering starts.
I think 90% will be like, oh my God, it's the best looking game I've ever played, which is like kind of, it's like, that makes a big impression. As
you're slowly trudging up a hill and voices are screaming at you, like,
let the masses be exposed to art, Ben.
I agree. I agree. That's the reason why it's like, I don't think Microsoft wanted to market this to the masses, because I think you're going to turn off more people than you're going to turn on if they think like, this is an Xbox game? What the hell is this? And I'm glad it exists, to be very clear. But, like, I was talking to somebody from a big studio recently, and they were talking about like, we're trying to figure out how to announce our new game and where the first trailer would go. And we could have it on Keeley's show, but I don't think we want it on that show. I was like, what do you mean? Like, if you can get a slot on a Keeley show, of course you should take it. And they're like, I don't think so. Like, it sets expectations at a certain level. And I think it might be different than people expect, and we don't want to bum people out. And that's what I kept thinking of during this, is like, if you see this trailer during an NBA game and you think, oh, sweet Viking game, and you jump in there and you say, what the hell is this? I'm never playing a game again. And then they kick their Xbox out the window. It's bizarre. But, going back to Jacob talking about Microsoft acquiring all these studios, it's like the studios they were acquiring, a lot of them were just kind of like studios that were pumping out cult classics, right? Beloved kind of obscure titles. And now, as I mentioned before, like, it's just not fair for these cult classic developers now to have this much attention and pressure put on them. Like, I was listening to a couple interviews with Dominic, who's now the studio head over there at Ninja Theory. It broke my heart to be like, oh, that team has worked so hard on this, and now this guy, it feels like he has to answer for everyone being like, hey, what's the deal with Microsoft shutting down the other studios? Are they going to shut down Ninja Theory? It's like, there could not be more pressure on that team right now. And it's a brutal spot for a game like Hellblade to be in, especially then when you factor in on the communications front, which I'm a dork for, the fact that Tamim, who was the creative director for the last Hellblade and a big force there at Ninja Theory, a co-founder who's been around forever, it was like quietly, almost accidentally through the back door revealed that he left Ninja Theory. Seems like years ago. It's a little ambiguous, but like they had a preview event and people in the press mentioned Tamim wasn't anywhere in the studio. And even the dev diaries at a certain point, like Tamim just wasn't there. And then weeks after that silence, then Tamim posted on Instagram like, yeah, I left a while ago. It's in good hands. Okay, bye. It all just feels very odd. Like clearly there's a lot of shifting priorities and development over a 7-year span and all that stuff. And I'm sure there's a wild saga in and of itself, but everything with this game, it just felt like, maybe if Tamim was out there as the visionary, obviously everybody has a huge input for it, but the visionary for the first Hellblade, you could drive home a message more clearly than look how good this game looks. It's about depicting psychosis in a realistic way, which are kind of the beats we've been hearing for a decade now, almost, when it comes to Hellblade development. But
I think that's good that you have that context and you talk about it now, because it feels like the type of thing in 10 years, people will say, what was going on in the game space that Hellblade 2 didn't get as much attention as it should? It's the kind of context that you forget after a decade, and you just can't remember what was going on the period of time, Microsoft-wise, what the community, what the internet felt, whatever. So to have a little time box of you knowing all that right now to explain why it has these weird spotlights on it, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Future historians, pull up this podcast.
I don't know
Listen to Ben talk about this context.
I don't know. And I know I don't want to swerve too much into the Microsoft doom and gloom situation, but where I got freaked out is personally bouncing off this game really hard and then thinking about Ninja Theory. They have Project Mara, which is kind of that horror game that they've said they're working on. There are reports from Windows Central that their next game has already been greenlit. Hopefully that can keep growing. But thinking about even if they pivoted to what they do best, which is stylish action throughout the history of the studio, could they make a better game than Hi-Fi Rush in that genre?
Also, it's like they haven't made a stylish action game in 10 years.
Right.
Is that what they do best now?
It's probably not the same people there. I mean.
Nope. Yeah. It's
So Ben, you said you bounced off.
Yeah.
You're done. You don't want to guide Senua on her saga. You don't want to rally behind this woman in her struggle.
Okay, playing the gender card.
Ben, we have
Huber.
another game that you should bounce to. Quick, do the segue.
Hey, 1000xResist, ladies and gentlemen. Huber, no, I tried going back twice and I was like, I can't. But what I can do is play more 1000xResist, which I started up here. But this game
And bounced off of?
No, but I liked it. I liked it. That's 1000xResist. I think it was cool. Okay, this is from Sunset Visitor is the name of the developer. Publisher is Fellow Traveler, who also made Citizen Sleeper and Genesis Noir.
Did they? Is that okay?
For the publisher vibes.
To me now.
Wait, this is the same developer as Citizen Sleeper?
Nope, publisher.
No publisher,
Yeah,
but
Fellow
still.
Yeah, the developer, it's Sunset Visitor, and I was watching a little documentary on YouTube about them. They're an interesting group. They're a bunch of artists and performers out of Vancouver. And it was just during COVID that they're like, well, let's try and make a game. And it's trying to instill some of our dance and performing sensibilities into it. But Jacob and Kelsey, what put this game on your radar in such a big way? Because it seemed like Kelsey picked it up and then Jacob's like, oh my God! Or what was the journey here?
I don't know who said it, but somehow, someone described this as a cross between 13 Sentinels and Nier. And I was like, oh, 2 of my favorite games of all time? Okay, I guess I need to play this right now. And I'm very, very glad I did.
Yeah, there were a couple. There were not a lot of reviews that came out for this game on release date, but they were glowing.
Yeah,
Natalie Flores on Paste was like, "This is one of the best games of the year." And Julie Muncie, who's just a former games writer that I like a lot, was like, "This game rocks." So it's just like people I trusted were kind of hot out the gate, being like, "Don't let this one slip past."
Yeah, and how are you two feeling about it?
Red hot.
Red hot.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Wow.
Okay,
Not
through the
the
damn
crooked half thumb of Hellblade.
No, oh, no. This is on my 210s. Like,
Yeah.
it would be shocking if there were even 3 games better than this year. But
It's the only game other than Balatro I've played this year where I'm like, this could be game of the year.
Wow.
For me, it's like I've played a lot of other games that I like that will probably be on my list somewhere. This is like a top spot contender.
Hang on, just like that, you're stabbing Mini Shoot Adventures in the damn heart. What are you doing?
Mini Shoot Adventures will have a comfortable 8 on my list.
Who told me
great.
about Mini Shoot Adventures? Who was it?
Probably in Slack. Dan Reichert got it on my radar, and then I know you
Ben
streamed.
told me.
I know you
yeah,
streamed.
God.
Ben infected all of us from there. I think.
Yeah, that game is incredible. Oh my God.
Yeah, Hubert, you want to talk about Mini Shoot Adventures, or should we keep talking about 1000 times resist? It's honestly a coin toss. No, I love that you love Mini Shoot Adventures so much. I love listening to an Easy Allies rave about it. So is it exactly that pitch? Is it 13 Sentinels and Nier? Kelsey, do you have a better pitch for what the 1000 times resist is?
Yeah, I mean, I get what they mean by that. Like, it definitely has sort of like a 13 Sentinels and Nier's storytelling vibes, where you're just kind of like uncovering more and more, and a lot of it isn't like big gotcha moments. It's just kind of like it does just such a fantastic job of really leading you towards a conclusion, but not giving you like the answer. And just every time you think you have something kind of figured out, or you've made like a judgment about something, it reveals just a little bit more. And again, not in like a gotcha way, just like okay, maybe it's not exactly, this isn't going exactly how I thought it was. And so it's also, it's in that like sci-fi vein and stuff like 13 Sentinels. So, centering teenagers in a way. So like there are parallels for sure, but I really do think this manages to be its own thing.
Yeah, like a weird third game I would throw into that mix is Before Your Eyes.
Ooh,
like
wait a minute,
kind of
wait a
blinking
minute.
Game. Not from like a gameplay perspective. You're not controlling this by blinking, but like it is. There are aspects of this game that are like such high concept sci-fi, and then it will give you slice of life, like current day slice of life chapters that like hit like a truck. That is not like, oh my gosh, what if aliens existed? It's just kind of like, you are going to really learn about the relationship between this girl and her friend and her parents, and it is like written in such a kind of intimate way that it really, I mean, it's like, it's one of those games where it's like, if the writing wasn't good, the entire game would not function, but the writing is unbelievably good, where it's just like all of the characters are so well formed and defined and like written in their own voice. And like weirdly, one of the things that I keep thinking about with the game is like, there are so many people who are lying to you about what is going on through the whole game, and like you almost never have a character that's like, okay, here's what's actually going on, and you just have to like sort through these like dozen different narratives you're getting about like what's happened and why it's happening and like who these people are that you're talking to. And it's like, it's really impressive that it can ask that much of you and like pull it off, because I think there's a version of this game where it just kind of gets like too lost in its own fiction, and I just like check out.
Yeah, it is a magical thing, even booting it up, when a game can convey so much confidence in its storytelling. Like, it's cryptic.
Kind of like Hellblade 2.
It's exactly like Hellblade 2, the best of the best. No, but like, you just feel like starting this game up, it's going to be cryptic. It seems like there's a lot of complexity to the story of what's happening in this setup, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like I'm in good hands storytelling wise. I feel like they know exactly what they're doing, and they're trickling this out in the way it wants to be trickled out for you to absorb. Because starting out, weird sci-fi stuff in the future, it has some Saga vibes, which I was excited about. But then at the same time, you're going to a high school early on, and then you're transporting through time to see what the high school was like back when it was running, when this pandemic was breaking out, and then the wild sci-fi times. And you're trying to understand, it's a classic kind of sci-fi concept of, you're trying to understand the way this world used to be back before everything changed. And there's weird stuff like she'll pick up a yearbook and be like, I don't understand, like, why is everybody why do they all have different faces? It's like, that just seems unnecessary for everybody to have a different face in society. It's like, okay, that's a cool idea. Just picking up like, what is the state of this world? And then pandemic aliens, is that the big instigator here?
Yeah, but I would almost argue that
instigator.
that's not what the game is about, which is really cool. Because you start off and yes, you very quickly learn, there's some kind of pandemic that happened. There's some kind of like weird alien creatures, and society has crumbled to some degree. I'm really gonna try to keep things vague because it is such a good story. But by the end of the game, like, you will kind of understand how that all happened, but like that becomes not the point and not that important in the grand scheme.
I like when stuff does that. Like, the thing you're supposed to care about, it's like, who even cares, this new thing?
Right.
Yeah,
Way more important.
it is really a game about, like the kind of internal drive and motivations of all of these different characters. And it's like the craziness of the situation of there are aliens and we're in the future and whatever is all just kind of like, how sharp can we make that introspection? Like, how much can we just like dial in on like what's going on in these people? There are just so many kind of cool aspects of the experience. Like, it's not a visual novel, but it feels very visual novel-y in that, like, the character, you're in a 3D space and the characters are 3D, but they don't really animate, and they just kind of like are static, and you get kind of different shots of their static characters. But the use of kind of lighting and dramatic scenery in this game is so, like, it feels very theatrical in that, like, it feels like they're kind of lighting it like a stage in different things. There are awesome voice performance choices, like, all of the characters have this like very like well acted but understated thing where a lot of them are just kind of like muttering, but it works. But then you have this little assistant robot next to you for the whole game, and the assistant robot speaks in what I can only describe as like Sally from the Charlie Brown specials kid voice, where it feels not only like not only like it's a child, but that it's somehow like a child reading lines phonetically. And I've never heard a voice performance like that other than in Charlie Brown Christmas, and I love it so much because you can tell that it's like kids talking and not an actor pretending to be a kid. And like there are so many pieces like that are just so like weird and inspired choices that it really then gives you confidence that it's like the rest of this world, I don't get it yet, but like they're so confident in this, how could they not have it all figured out?
Yeah, and to Ben's point, like earlier when you were saying like that you kind of trust it even if you don't know what's going on. I mean, there are lots of points in this game where you will feel like you don't really understand what's happening, but there was never a point where I thought like I had missed something. It was more like, okay, they're going to tell me about this, or I'm going to at least start piecing it together from here. So I think that it does just such a fantastic job of that. And I think it's interesting you call it a visual novel. I hadn't really thought about that, but it's a walking simulator basically. Like there's no combat.
Okay.
It's just it's all story driven. There's a little bit of like puzzly stuff none of it is difficult. But you just kind of get from one end of the game to the other in so many different scenes. Some where like I had to stop playing because it was 2 a.m. and it was like getting pretty scary. Like I was freaked out and it was a very like haunting scene and I was starting to get spooked, and some that are just, beautiful and nice and stuff. It's a trip.
That's so sweet. Yeah, 1000xResist. It's on Switch. It's on PC. I think that might be it.
That's it right now.
Okay. Either of you play on Switch? Is it running okay?
I was playing it on Steam Deck, and it was totally fine. Well, actually, there were a couple moments where it slowed down a lot, but I don't know. Over the course of like a 15, 16-hour game, it was
Also, it's not
negligible.
like reflex based. It's not like you're gonna miss anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I will say there was one thing that annoyed me about this game, and it's that you spend a good amount of time in this sort of like compound with multiple levels. There is no map. There's like sort of pathing, and
Bafflingly
it is
designed compound.
Oh no.
so confusing. And I swear, a good 90 minutes of my playthrough was just me being lost in this compound.
Kelsey, I kept trying to
say that.
think. I was like, is there a reason that it is this hard to navigate? In the same way that Hellblade 2, I'm like, well, they're making me walk slow on purpose. I was like,
Right.
there must be some kind of lore
narrative
implication for why it's so goddamn hard to get around this place.
This was the one moment in this where I just was like, yeah, this is a small studio. Before this scares you, it's not a very big compound. So while you might get lost, you're not going to get like crazy lost. You're just going to go around in circles and be a little frustrated.
No, there are these sections between levels where it's kind of like, okay, you can go here and start the next level, but like, why don't you go talk to all these people and they'll have kind of interesting things to say. But sometimes you will see that there's an icon of someone who seems like they're just like 10 feet away, but it's like there's no door between here and there. So how do I get to that icon?
Yeah. It's a 4-person for full-timers team here for the studio at Sunset Visitors. So it's awesome they pulled it off. Hey, before we forget, what is the best looking game of all time, realism-wise?
I think it's Last of Us Part 2.
I think there's still a good case to be made for that.
I feel like it's Red Dead Redemption 2.
And Red Dead 2 as well.
Yeah. If you're factoring
Riding
in-
around in Red
think it
Dead
might
2
be-
with the ultra settings,
Yeah.
I just do that sometimes. I don't even talk to anybody.
No one's team Cyberpunk for this?
I think Cyberpunk's a real contender. Like you bring up like the lighting and stuff. We asked the Discord and people were like, "Oh, the ray tracing. If you have all that cranked on Cyberpunk, like it's tough to top that."
I just remember the first time I saw this game, I don't remember what E3 it was, but even just the first demo, I was like, there's always like a couple of times in your video game journey where you're like, what? Graphics can't get any better than this. And that was the last one I had in a really long time. So
it's kind of interesting where like, even within realism, it's like, okay, if you're asking me to think about like people, it's The Last of Us 2, that it's like that scene where like Ellie takes off her shirt. It's like, well, that's the most impressive thing I've ever seen. And if you're asking me to think about like fog and like the sun through clouds, then it's Red Dead, because no game's ever done anything better than that. But if you just want to like take a picture of a building and be like, is that real life or not? Then it's Cyberpunk. Like they're very good at different things.
Yeah, it is factor rated. So I asked the Discord what they thought the best looking game of all time was, and immediately somebody jumped in there with one that I completely forgot about, where they're like, oh, it's the Matrix Awakens tech demo in UE5. It's like,
true.
yeah,
That's
might
a great
be.
answer.
I think it might be. I went back and looked at that thing again, was like, Jesus, I forgot how good that thing
What's
looked.
that called? The
Matrix
I've never seen this.
Awakens. It came out same time as like Resurrections. It was like a tech demo made by the Coalition.
I'm
You can
not
like
sure
drive
if you
around.
can
Yeah, it was weird.
download it anymore.
Was that a time thing?
Holy.
It was on PS5.
This
but
is
yeah,
a game?
You can play it.
Well,
You can drive around. You can drive around there.
it's a city that you can fly around in. The like Keanu and Carry-On Moss models in that look little weird. They're flying a little too close to the sun, but like the city themselves itself is incredible.
Yeah, they're getting above the clouds. They're getting too close to the sun. It's no good here.
Oh my God, there's a clip of just one of the characters looking up at a building. Every single every window looks absolutely perfect.
You need to play it,
Something
Haley.
about that.
You need to play it.
Whoa.
Let's see, other suggestions. Ghost of Tsushima on PC in particular. One that I forgot about, Callisto Protocol. Like, I think it's a contender. Dead Space remake, I think is a contender. A lot of steel, a lot of reflections, but that makes it look great. Demon Souls remake, a lot of people are still gunning for that, saying that might still be.
Good pick.
Yeah. Oh.
It's stylized. Can I give unfortunately the correct answer?
Yeah.
Immortality, baby.
Blah.
Can't get better than that.
Blah.
Sorry, is this just for like best realistic looking?
Yeah, I
graphic?
think we gotta narrow it down. Otherwise, you get into the whole art debate, and it's Okami HD. We already settled it. It happened
HD,
a long time ago. Do you have one that could top anything here, Huber?
No. Red Dead and Last of Us for sure.
Yeah.
And Cyberpunk. I feel like those three for sure.
Yep. I
And
think about
Hellblade
great.
2 is right up there.
And
now,
Hellblade
too.
2.
Contender as well. Forza Horizon 5. Somebody suggested. It's like, yeah.
And Horizon Forbidden
car
West.
games always kind of have that, like, they take a picture of the leather and they're like, is this a real car? You can't tell.
Hey, speaking of just the best looking game artistically, Crow Country, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't seen this game, look at it. We talked about it. That's the catchphrase we like to get going around here. Look at this damn thing. Sarah Pazorski was raving about this game a while ago. I know she's been streaming it on her own channel and really enjoying it. But Crow
It feels
Country.
like it was plucked from the brain of Sarah.
Yeah, but it's weird because she's normally like, PS1, dusty old crap, let it die. But now she comes crawling back for this game because it is, as the developers pitch it, and it's so beautiful, they say, we wanted to take the character models of Final Fantasy VII and put them in a Resident Evil game. It's like, well,
Fair enough.
that's it. Mission accomplished, baby, with Crow Country here. And it's from the developers of Snipper Clips.
Which is
What?
SFB, yeah. Yeah, they've had a wild journey through the game industry. But Huber, Crow Country, I know you're a huge Resident Evil fan. This game could not be more of a love letter, but we've had a lot of love letters. But how does this one stack up?
Stacks up near the top.
Near the
for
top.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah, this game is excellent. It's super excellent. The atmosphere specifically really carries it. And there's like just enough mystery as well with the story throughout, where you kind of just like show up and you don't really know what's going on. And then, through interacting with NPCs and finding documents, you kind of learn about this abandoned amusement park and what has gone down. And yeah, it's just classic survival horror too. Really good inventory management.
Yeah.
Puzzles that are pretty tricky, but like never insanely impossible to figure out. I feel like the puzzles are really well balanced.
That's nice. Yeah, I started it up, and it's one of those games where it's like, oh, God, I'm going to love this. And I immediately was like, I need to stop it because I should play through this whole game with my friend Ronnie, like my PS1 buddy. Like, this just feels tailor-made for that. But I am worried a little bit about the puzzles and stuff because I'm very stupid when it comes to in-game puzzles. But
You're going to say something mean
You'll be
about
fine.
Ronnie. 'Cause he can't handle the puzzles.
yeah, I could handle it just fine, but old Dumbo Ron head, he can't handle it.
Oh, Ron Ed.
But they're not too bad, Huber?
No. Maybe there's like one or two maybe that are pretty tricky, but the map does a really good job of it'll circle like a room where there's still something that you need to do. So like getting lost is, you don't really get lost that often. Like there are still some moments when you'll have to kind of backtrack and wander around. You're like, wait, what am I actually supposed to do right now? But it's pretty refined. So
Yeah.
Is
not too-
it
that's
scary or is it cute enough that it's not that scary? Because it looks pretty cute.
it's cute, but like menacing.
Ah.
Yeah, it's got a menacing and oppressive vibe because like, there are manual save spots. There's no auto save. So like there's that little bit of pressure when you're out there.
Yeah.
Ammo is like, you have a good amount of ammo, but you're still always kind of limited. And just the audio as well. There's like jump scare audio, not too much though, so don't be concerned. There's not too much of that, but just like weird sounds all the time and like freaky freakos just like walking at you. Yeah, it gets pretty intense.
Oh,
Did you
that's
guys
so
ever
cool.
play Yoma Wari Night Alone?
Oh, I did, yeah.
I'm wondering if it's like that because that was also very cute, but I was like, like it was scary enough that I was like, it's like a cuteness scary meter. I'm just like wondering if it's cute enough that I won't be that upset while I play it, or if I'll be screaming. Regardless,
I don't think you'll
I-
be screaming. I think it'll be fine.
yeah.
I love this art style so much. To me, it's like if someone took Animal Crossing and made it like the original Animal Crossing and just made it like all evil and creepy. But like I don't know. I want to keep looking at this, and it doesn't really sound like the kind of game that I'm super into. I'm not a huge Resident Evil person, but I'm like, I just want to play this because I want to like look around this world a lot. It's so cool looking.
Yeah, and there is, I mean, if you're not a big Resident Evil person, it is cool that right when you start up the game, they give you the option of like, hey, do you want basically a no combat version of this? Where there are no enemies, you just run around and solve puzzles, and it turns into Lorelei and the Laser Eyes pretty much, except an easy version of that in comparison. Like, have at it. Which is
I still want to
Get
see the
killed in
creepy
Lorelei.
enemies.
oh,
Can they
that's
just like
interesting.
hang out in the corner and not attack me?
Yeah, they just quietly wave at you from down the hallway.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, I'm like a weird spindly skeleton man.
I could
Not
kill
gonna
you
hurt
so
now.
easily right now, but I won't. Scout's honor. Walk on by.
Hubert, did you play Signalis?
Yeah, I like Signalis, but I didn't love it as much as everyone else. I don't know why it didn't hit me as hard. I'm big on Crow Country though. I love Crow Country, and I really like Signalis.
Okay. This is bombastic. I realize that, but like, Crow Country best PS1 love letter ever made. I'm trying to think of like in the terms of the throwback PS1 games. There's a lot of games where like, oh, that's a cool visual thing. I don't know about the design, or there's a lot of other parts where it kind of falls apart. Signalis obviously people love. I don't think it's as much of a throwback PS1 wise as Crow Country is, but it has to be top, right?
It's pretty throwbacky. I mean, it's just more Silent Hill than Resident Evil.
Sure. But I think Crow Country might just be the new top dog for retro stuff for the PS1 here.
Oh, far you been? What's your
honestly,
thoughts,
super early. It was genuinely like I'm going to put this box and seal it back up and save it for a long playthrough with my friend. I'm going to go up to his house and play it. I think it's going to be the plan. We're looking forward to getting back to it. But Crow Country, do you know what systems is it on? I think it's on everything, right, Huber?
I think it's on everything.
Yep, it's on PS1. Yep, it's already a greatest hits. It's got the green label. It's everything you need. So check it out.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh, good times. I remember one time I gave a presentation in a class. You have to give a presentation on something, and I chose PlayStation games. Pretty
That's
cool
really
move.
sweet.
In like 5th grade, and I got up in front of the class, and I was like, you can tell it's a good game if the label is green on the side. And everyone's like, oh, okay. Everyone just thought that was an actual thing, but I was so stupid. I was
Everyone's
like,
frantically taking notes.
yeah, I don't know how I got that in my head, but it kind of makes sense. Like if it sells a lot, it has to be good. So therefore the green ones are the good ones. I don't know.
Do you think anyone who learns what you do now will like remembers that story? It's like, that makes sense that that's what he does.
I mean, how many presentations from other kids in 5th grade do you really remember? Like, what would it take to really lock it into somebody's brain forever?
I remember a
Your
horrible one
fly
where
would
I
have
was
to be down
using-
or something.
Even
true.
then, I feel like you'd forget about
I
it by
used an
now.
Onion article as like the main point of my topic. I didn't know the Onion was a joke, and that's the guy who was like such an asshole at my high school. He's like, that's not even like, he didn't even wait till the end, or like he just raised his hand. He's like,
Wait,
that's
at your
the
high
Onion.
school? I thought this was like 5th grade.
We're not all as smart as you, Jacob Geller. Come on, man.
And my teacher didn't know the Onion wasn't real. It wasn't actually a jokey thing either, so I could have got away with it if Chris had just shut his goddamn mouth and just let me finish my stupid incorrect presentation.
What was the article?
Yeah, what is the
What was
article?
the project on?
I don't want.
Come on.
You gotta tell us.
Well, I know it was about Obama, but I can't remember what the
Oh,
article
no.
Oh no!
Was it the one, my favorite Onion article, where it says a picture of Obama is proven to be photoshopped, and it's him with a speech bubble that says, Islam is my main thing?
It was a pro-Obama. It wasn't anti-Obama in my presentation in high school in grade 10. What would it have been? It would have been Obama Onion article like 2009.
I think there are going to be 1,000.
Yeah, good luck.
I know. How will I ever find it?
Is it my favorite?
I was thinking about when we just covered Max Payne 2 on Something Rotten, and I was reminded of my favorite Onion News Network video, which was hot new video game consists solely of shooting people point blank in the face, where it's just like interviewing these people, and it's like, you really feel like you're put inside the brain of someone who's driven to shoot hundreds of people point blank in the face.
Point blank in the face. Okay, so you really don't remember what it was, Haley?
No,
This is
I
your
swear to
last
God,
chance.
I'm not like the last fact of my horrible how stupid I am story. I truly can't remember, but it was like not the. It was at the end of my presentation. It was like, and a fun fact, blah 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 blah, or like something like that. And he's like, that's stupid. The Onion's fake stuff. You don't even know that. And he like, I hated this. Kid.
So it wasn't like the key point of your article. It was just
I kind of referenced
factoid.
it. Places up to that point, like, and if you're curious where I got that info, like, here's the story where that comes from.
You're not alone. Everyone gets tricked by the Onion. Like I remember it was a while ago where some big sites was like CNN or something. It had an article and it was all sourced from the Onion, and the Onion article was Green Day finally reveals identity of the American idiot. It was George W. Bush all along. Like it was some great puzzle we're trying to untangle. And then somebody wrote it up like...
What if I told you I wrote that article? That was me.
Oh, I'd
in
say
high
great
school.
job, Haley. Your Twinfinite articles were the finest.
Thank you.
Top 3 characters to date in Overwatch today.
Hey, I needed to pay my bills.
Hey, I'm not shaming
got
it.
clicks. Leave me alone.
That was good. Good
Ben,
clip.
what's the last article you wrote?
I've never written an article. I think
Exactly.
Can we just share our favorite Onion articles? Can we just keep doing that?
Yeah. What do you got, man?
Mine is dad at PTA meeting hopes everyone notices how many chairs he's carrying.
That's good. My favorite is one that had no text in the body. It was just a picture and a headline, and the headline just said, "Flying squirrel loves it every time." I think about it constantly.
They would, right? They would love that every time.
If they don't, life isn't worth living. That's all I know for sure. Hey, shout out to some of MinnMax's biggest supporters of this whole thing, like HelloFresh, everybody. We all know HelloFresh. You know, when you get
Wait a
home...
sec, you're not going to ask us the question?
I'm changing it
Peer
up.
pressure you into not doing that?
Yeah, I'm going to try it out. But now it's ruined. Everyone's going to comment on the fact that it changed.
Patreon.
It was so smooth. We'll save the Patreon plugs for the end. Shorten this whole window here. That's right,
He's
Kelsey.
gonna cut all this out.
HelloFresh. You know, when you don't feel like cooking up something that's overly complicated, you just want a nice pre-packaged ingredient, just a big box of that dropped off on your front door, and it makes cooking fun, easy, breezy, beautiful. CoverGirl. You know when you get home and you don't want to cook, you just want to cook up a CoverGirl? That's what HelloFresh is here for.
This is getting unhinged.
Yeah, it's too unhinged. But I dare you to not like HelloFresh. Has everybody here used HelloFresh?
Yeah.
We're all nodding. I truly love it. I am an idiot when it comes to cooking, and they make me feel like a god.
It taught me that most aiolis are just mayonnaise with some other stuff in it.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, yeah.
It's everything you need. You don't got to measure anything out. It's all ready to go. So HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Of course, 20 recipes are on the table in just 20 minutes. It's quicker than delivery. It's important to point out. You feel like a champ doing it. You can bring in springtime with fresh seasonal produce picked at peak ripeness and delivered straight from the farm to your door. You can still smell the farmer if you inhale really aggressively.
Want a really very specific bonus summer thing with HelloFresh that I like is
Sure.
the ice packs. I keep them, and then they're really good for coolers.
That's true. That's good.
There you go.
Tip.
That's why you can go to HelloFresh.com/MinnMax Suite for free dessert for life. What? 1 dessert item per box while subscription is active. That's free dessert for life at HelloFresh.com/MinnMax Suite. That's a URL that I feel like we should have taken advantage of before. But thank you to HelloFresh, and thank you to the fine folks at, of course, Squarespace. You want to build a site? Just use Squarespace, everybody. Jacob Geller, did you make your site yet?
Not yet.
Well, might I interest you in a little...
That's why I still have to do this dang MinnMax show.
That's right. We are the anchor around your feet until you're freed by the fine folks at Squarespace. And this video podcast is sponsored and brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online, whether you're just starting out or managing or growing a brand. Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your terms, everybody. What's holding you back from building a website, Jacob? You're probably thinking it's going to be complicated. You won't be able to do that much on there.
Yeah.
It's hard. That's what Squarespace
Jacob has
can
so
help
many
out.
things he's doing. How can he possibly categorize them?
I'm
in
worried
one
that it
simple
won't
website?
have drag and drop options.
Oh, you want drag and drop? You're about to slay some drag and drop with the amount that Squarespace will give you. Also, they have a blueprint, SEO tools, so everybody searching Jacob Geller will know exactly where to go. You can sell your content on there, sell some merch. You can put all your videos on there in a big video collection. Squarespace has all these options available to you, so you can head to squarespace.com for a free trial. When you're ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/MinnMax to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Squarespace.com for a free trial. When you're ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/MinnMax to save 10% off of that first purchase. of everything here. Thank you to Squarespace for supporting the show.
Our sponsors like it when we interrupt you and make jokes.
I think it's better. I think
it's better because it's more memorable. But then maybe some of them are like, he missed a vowel back there on the thing he had to. You know what I mean?
When I stumble through it again. I think it's better overall, as long as it doesn't make the section too long. Like, I think it's better to have people chiming in.
Bashing it in our joke or something.
Yeah, I mean, you can bash it a little bit, I think. The only people you can't bash, however, are the fine folks at I Am 8-Bit, who have been with us for a very long time. Shout out to the folks at I Am 8-Bit. You should check out their wonderful online store because it's truly fantastic. And in store now, they have a vinyl soundtrack called Joystick Jazz. The Blue Shift Big Band plays iconic video game hits, vinyl soundtrack 1 and 2. 2 volumes. Okay, Jacob, you tell me which volume you want to hear more for the Joystick Jazz Blue Shift Big Band stuff. Do you want to hear volume 1, which has songs from Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie, Sonic the Hedgehog, and a lot more, or volume 2, which has songs from Grim Fandango, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Kingdom Hearts 3, and more?
Well, 1 had a lot more. And 2 only
Okay,
had more. But
okay.
I want to hear the Kingdom Hearts 3. So
Ooh.
I'm going disc 2.
Bold take. I think I'd have to go, volume 2, I think, for that Grim Fandango. Like, have that on vinyl. A big band covering Grim Fandango music. Nothing better than that.
Janet plug. She reviewed them on her TikTok.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sweet. Game Honestus. You can follow her on TikTok there. Or you can just go to I'm 8-Bit's wonderful online store as well, in addition to following Janet on TikTok, and check out all of their stuff that's available in their store. They have a lot of vinyl soundtracks, which look incredible, but they have so much more. If you need a gift for a geek in your life, check out I'm 8-Bit's wonderful online store, and you can use the promo code GOTITFORMYMAMA. Got it for my mama for 10% off of everything in the store under $100. And you should help support I'm 8-Bit just to thank them, because they've been around for a very long time and they are very kind to the MinnMax community, because each and every week they ship out a prize from their wonderful online store to whoever has the best question submitted on Patreon here. So if you support us at any tier on Patreon, you can submit a question. We choose our favorite, they win a prize. This week it is, nothing better. Nothing better than this. It is the Chicory Piano Collections vinyl soundtrack, which one of my favorite soundtracks in a very long time, and to have a piano collections thing on vinyl thanks to I'm 8-Bit. And again, they're just shipping this out to community members out of the kindness of their hearts. Nothing better than that. So help support them. Jacob Geller, do you want to actually go tell I'm 8-Bit that we really appreciate them in person?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, cool. Anything you want to plug before you bow out?
Listen to the Something Rotten podcast, and my get a load of this is listen to the 1000xResist soundtrack, because it's really, really good.
Perfect. All right, clap out of here, dude. Thank you. Hubert, did people call you like Goober in middle school and stuff?
Goober.
Yeah.
Hubes, but then they shorten it to pubes.
That's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, but that was very early, like very young age there, and then it became just like endearing, like Hubie.
Yeah.
Aww. Oh my god, remember that movie that with the chicken? Hubie something?
Hubie Halloween?
Hubie Halloween.
Happy Hubie Halloween to you.
Is that a thing? Happy Hubie?
Oh, it's a big thing in the States. I don't know, maybe it hasn't caught on in Canada yet, but we're all saying it down here.
Yet. What was your mean name, Ben? I feel like Hanson has some opportunities.
Hanson, the boy band.
The boy band. But this is the thing, is like, people bring it up like, oh, you must be so sick of that. It's like, I like MMMBop as much as anybody else. Like, I thought it was fun when it came out. I think it's a good song now. I'm always delighted to hear that song. But I got...
Did they call you Hanson when you were younger, or was that just like a Game Informer thing?
No, yeah, when I was in school, yeah. Hanson kind of came up around like middle school, I suppose, high school. Hands On was one where it's like, that's kind of a weird...
And Jobson.
How dare you, Haley? No one ever called me Hand Jobson.
I'm trying to get in the mind of a mean child in middle school.
Yeah, that's just confusing. Like, to what end? Anyways, hey,
To what end?
Tanner Hoisington, not to what bell end? Tanner Hoisington's writing in. They say, let me start by saying, who am I to question the minds at Nintendo? That's right. So on and so forth. But are they out of their minds for going the entire lifespan of the Switch and a pandemic and not releasing a Nintendogs game? Do they not realize the money they're leaving on the table? My wife asks me every few months if there's a new Nintendogs coming, and she doesn't play much else.
That's so sweet. I love that. No,
I
I'm
don't
pissed
think
that
the
there's no
3DS ones sold that well. I don't think
Really?
they were. Yeah, which I mean, look, I agree with. I already forgot their name. I'm sorry. Of
Tanner
this lovely-
Hoisington.
Of Tanner Hoisington. I agree
And
with him
cats.
wholeheartedly. But I don't think the 3DS ones did that well. I do think it's like due for a reboot, like a big. It should be like a
Switch
big
to
splashy.
launch.
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
a good one.
Return to the dogs. That would be.
That's a sick name.
That is a
Nintendogs
great name,
Return to the
Kelsey.
Dogs.
Yeah, the dogs have defeated the cats once and for all. They will not be present in this product.
I have the best memory when I was little of visiting my grandparents in Florida, and my sister and I brought our Nintendogs, and we were at the pool, and two chairs next to us, another little girl was playing, and she was playing with her Nintendog. So we all sat together and played Nintendogs, and she taught us how to teach them like a special trick that you'd only know if someone taught it to you. I was like, this is gaming, baby. This is what games are all about.
Was there multiplayer Nintendogs? Could you like show off your dog to other people?
Was there, Kelsey? Am I crazy
I
in
think there
feeling
was
like I
like
remember
something. There
could
was something
visit?
you could do.
The puppy could
Yeah.
I have a weird memory of my sister's puppy like coming around the corner of my hangout zone where my dog was.
Was that just in your head?
Maybe I'm just making that up, but like we always got different puppies and named them like Salt and Pepper or
that's
matching names. So I feel like we would have gotten them together at some point.
Yeah, you just have to connect your Nintendo DS system through bark mode, which allows one to play with another player's puppies.
Oh,
good.
see, look what we're missing out on. Like bark mode, that we could have bark mode back again.
I was looking at the history of Nintendogs here based on this question because in my mind I was like, how many Nintendogs games do you think there were?
Well, I'm going to say there were 2, but then there were spin-offs. Was there like Nintendo Cats or something?
Well, so it's confusing,
Sort
and I'm
of.
hoping the experts can help me out because according to this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games because it's like Nintendogs
What?
best friends, and there's like Nintendogs Chihuahua and friends, Dachshund and friends, Dalmatian and friends, Labrador and friends, Shiba Inu and friends. So what were those? Were those just like expansions or like updates?
what?
There was
No,
only
there-
certain breeds I remember in certain versions.
That
had
sucks.
So it's like
get
a
that version.
Pokemon Red, Yellow, Blue
Literally,
type.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so weird. So you'd have to just buy these again. Like I really want a Dalmatian, so therefore I have to buy this whole other game, and it just has
I mean, you
one new
probably
type
wouldn't
of.
because you'd be a kid. You'd be like, I can't have a Dalmatian. Sad.
I
It's kind
seem
of like
to
the
remember-
real life when your parents wouldn't get you the puppy.
I seem to remember you were able to like unlock other breeds later in the game, but I wonder, I don't know if there were any that like stayed exclusive, or if it was just like, look, I really want the Dalmatian. I'm going to get the one that starts with the Dalmatian, and maybe after 40 hours of playing, I'll get a Shiba Inu too or whatever. But yeah, I do remember there were like more breeds you could get, but I don't remember if any of them stayed exclusive.
Yeah, and I'm surprised I didn't get into this because it's basically just the evolution of Tamagotchi, right? It's just the ultimate form. So I was thinking about too on the front of Nintendo leaving money on the table when it comes to animals. I still think quietly one of their most beloved IPs that it's wild they have not tried to cash in on is Duck Hunt. Like an entire generation grew up playing Duck Hunt. It was paired with Mario for so many people with that double cartridge, and like it's been an Easter egg that'll pop up here and there.
Besides Smash
Smash Bros.
Bros.
Smash
Yeah,
Bros,
like,
Duck Hunt Dog, yeah, but
is
like
that kind of it?
I think it's probably, this is my fan fiction, but I think it's probably because Miyamoto's a vegetarian and he probably thinks it's like mean to shoot ducks for food. It's probably connected to that. Not that he's calling all the shots there at Nintendo, but who knows?
Oh, vegetarian propaganda. Nintendo.
I'm sick of it.
Sick of it.
I have the answer for version exclusive content, and
Please.
it's basically just items. So you can unlock every dog eventually, but you can't necessarily unlock all of the like little accessories. Like for if you want a party hat, you got to get Chihuahua and friends and Dalmatian and friends. But then if you go on walks, if you do that bark mode thing, you can actually like get some of the items from the other.
Interesting. Wow. So,
Yeah.
so it's just a way to get a new dog on the cover so they can appeal for like all the lab fans.
That
Probably.
and like that, it is a different version because you start with different dogs. So
Okay.
like the lab and friends will be like, you get a Labrador right now. You can, from the second you boot it up, you can have one. Whereas in Dalmatian and Friends or whatever, you gotta unlock, you gotta work for that Labrador.
Smart.
One of my favorite memories of Tumblr is somebody's blog, and all they did was make fanfic of the two dudes who announced the agility contests and how they're in love.
Oh, what?
It's amazing because they do have a weird sexual tension when you go back and read some of the things they say to each other. And then someone just leaned into that and had like a 1 million person blog where all they reposted was art of them two, like fanfics written about them. It's just like, oh, that's what you miss when you lose Tumblr. That kind of stuff.
White Mex writes in, they say, hey, everybody. Ben, congrats on being a homeowner. Thank you. I'm sure packing and moving your belongings will help with this question. What is the oldest item you own? Not something you bought that is just old. I'm talking about an item you've had for the longest. And what's the story behind it? Yeah, it's funny. My wife actually, we were just talking about this the other day. We're like, what is the oldest thing that we're moving? And then it was such a slam dunk because we both have like our childhood toys. So I have like my stuffed animal bear that I try to get my kid to play with, not aggressively and obnoxiously. I just have it in the corner as an option if he wants to play with the, stuffed animal I care the most about. But I've had that since I was like
And then
3.
you're going to make him start with Atari and work his way up through
The
Mario
way it
before he's
should
allowed
be.
to play new video games.
It is. I mean, Kelsey, we have a whole new show plus talking all about parenting and stuff, but it's obvious, but it is a weird, gross thing that I realized like, oh, part of the appeal of parenting is you're just living your life again, but from third person. And then you just get to like stare at this person and be like, what are you thinking? What is your brain processing? It's a delightful thing. That said, don't force your kids to be into what you're into because it sucks. But yeah, what old items do y'all got?
I mean, my stuffed animal, which I think I've talked to about I think I went and got her at one point on the pod. I can't remember what the question was for, but I've had
It's
that
unrelated.
since I was 4. Yeah, I think I just brought her out to snuggle her because I was stressed out about the pod. Yeah.
It's a tough one.
My Dodger hat I've had since like elementary, middle school. It's actually really disgusting. There's like a big, like the sweat. When you wear a hat for so long, you get like the like sweat stains and
Yeah.
stuff.
Ring.
It's
Have you
pretty
washed
gnarly.
it?
I don't even wear it anymore. I just like leave it there. It's just
Oh my God.
But it's got sentimental value because I used
Yeah.
to go to so many games with like my family and my brother and everything. So
Yeah.
never getting rid of that thing.
Oh, that's cute. And you can't wash the sweat and the hopes and
No.
dreams off that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, gotta keep it.
Dodgers will lose.
Connor McCabe writes in and says, hey, Ben, Kelsey, Michael, Haley. Correct. Good job. Ben's local Minnesota Timberwolves just knocked off the defending champs and are in the conference finals
Get it.
for the second time. They're having possibly their best season ever. Ben, are you or your Minnesotan friends invested in all? I have noticed, I don't know if this is just a psychological quirk, but I've noticed there's a lot of kids playing in like driveway basketball hoops or whatever. And it's like, I think it's just energizing when your team is killing it in a sport and suddenly everyone's really into this. Like my nephew is like, oh, my favorite sport is basketball. I was like, what? You're a football kid. He's like, no, I love basketball. Number one. It's like, that's all it takes if they just get on a hot streak. So it's fun to see. That said, no, I have no emotional investment whatsoever in the Timberwolves. I was thinking recently, and I'm not trying to brag about not being into something, but here it goes. I was just thinking, the Timberwolves have never had one impact on any emotion I've ever had in my life, and I really like that. It's easy when you're not a sports guy to be like, I'm just gonna not be affected and bummed out at any point.
Dude, and my dad is like the best quote because like my dad growing up was like super hardcore, still is into sports, but like he used to take losses really hard.
Yeah, it's the worst.
He had to find himself. So then eventually when like his team would lose, he would just be like, it's not going to change my life. He just had to keep telling himself that it's not going to change my life.
As a single tear is rolling down his cheek. I'm fine.
Ben cares about sports so little that last year I was like, the Minnesota Twins got knocked out of the playoffs, and I was like, oh man, that was rough. But you guys have a lot to look forward to, lots of young talent, and the entire Discord was like, what? We were in the playoffs?
No idea. But yeah, Connor McCabe says, it made me wonder, what's the most each of you have been invested in a sports moment in your life? What do you think is like number one sports moment?
2017 World Series Dodgers Houston Astros.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was at game 1. We won that game, which is cool. But then that's the infamous trash can, sign stealing scandal. Dodgers ended up losing that World Series.
Hang on.
Yeah, but you're fine. You're fine.
Not gonna
feel
change
bad
my
for
life. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Dodgers always win in the regular season. Like, we're a winning team, but still wanted that World Series because that was the last. Not to get heavy or anything, but that was the last that like my brother got to be at and like watch and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So like I really wanted that World Series because of my brother so badly. And those damn cheating Astros, man, they stole it from us.
Oh, what is trash can? What is the
They
Saga?
would bang on. They would have someone in the dugout when they would be batting, and they would bang a trash can a certain number of times to tell the batter what pitch was coming. So like 1 bang is a fastball, 2 bangs is a curveball. Yeah, it is insane. Insanity.
Did you know that Kelsey was born and raised in Texas, and she defends this wholeheartedly?
Oh, although I will say I was at the 2005 Astros White Sox World Series. I am 0 for 3. Yeah, 0 for 3 in World Series I've been to for the team I was rooting for. At the time I was rooting for the Astros. They were not cheaters yet. This was like so far before they became cheaters.
The 3 Bs.
Yeah. And they got swept that World Series. And then I went to the Rangers World Series in 2011. And then I went to Mets World Series in 2015. And my answer is the 2015 World Series, which went horribly for me. But actually, I want to do a fun answer. Because those were like World Series is like the big moments and everything, right? Like that's what really counts. But the Mets had this pitcher for a while. His name was Bartolo Colon. We called him Big Sexy because he was like, I don't know, 300 pounds. This just like enormous mountain of a man who, back then the pitchers would still bat. This is a newer thing that they've completely done away with that. He got up to bat, and this is like, I mean, he jogs at like 1 mile an hour. I mean, again, just the biggest man you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
He hit a home run, and like just watching him laboriously get around the bases, just, the ground shaking with every step was like the funniest moment of baseball in my life. And I still cherish that.
That's so epic.
I know this is a
I
loaded...
bet the dugout gave him I bet they were making fun of him and laughing at him. I bet that's good video.
Everyone streamed out of the dugout to just like it was such a big moment. It was bigger than the World Series. It was
I love that.
Yeah.
I know this is a whole can of worms, Kelsey, but why does everyone pick on the Mets? It seems like it's like a punching bag team, but then if they've been to the World Series recently, they must be good. What's going on?
No, they're terrible.
Oh.
They're a truly cursed franchise. So their first year is in existence in 62, I believe, is still to this day the worst record for a team in the modern era. So, like, we are just a very cursed franchise. We lose in creative ways, in key moments, in heartbreaking ways. They're so good at just, like, giving you hope and then ripping it all away from you. Yeah. We have the highest payroll in baseball right now. Yeah. We are paying the most for our team, and we are terrible. We have lost like 6 of our last 7 or something like that. Just it's a tough life.
I love that sports people say we as if you're on the team. I think that's so
I am
cute.
on the team.
It's really sweet.
I wear my little Pete Alonso jersey, and I'm like,
it's like,
I'm
what
playing.
Is that basketball, right? The crowd is the 6th person or whatever. It's like
the Seahawks have the 12th man.
Yeah.
Aww.
It is funny. Like, I would love to do a poll of just like, hey, do you think your favorite sports team is cursed? Because I bet like 80% of people would be like, oh, of course we're cursed. We're never winning.
My partner thinks the Maple Leafs are super mega cursed.
It's just like, or it's just the odds of your team winning the championship are very slim. And that's always the thing that every time because I grew up loving the Vikings, and like every time I get more and more invested in a season, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm going to get bummed out. The odds we're ever going to win a Super Bowl are so low at this point.
It's so fun to get wrapped up in something like that.
Yeah, and you got to get invested in the smaller moments too. Mm-hmm. Like, and I think that's especially key when your team is just kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
Like, get excited about certain players, about certain moments, about certain games. I mean, baseball's 162 games before the postseason. Like, there is there's so many fun moments to be excited about, and that's what keeps me going. And
The journey.
depressed about the season.
And with the expanded MLB playoffs too, like everyone has a chance at this point to make it into the playoffs. You can be like a 500
we're like
or
5
under.
games under 500
Yeah,
and
and
still
you're
2.5 out from the playoffs.
Hell yeah.
So Dodgers and Mets have never played each other in the World Series here?
They can't.
They're on the NL, so it'd be NL, and the NLCS would probably be.
Wait, they're completely. They don't.
You know that there's 2 leagues.
Yeah.
There's like an American league.
Well,
and a
yeah, but it's
National
like
League.
I assumed it was like the NFL, and then the winner of the 2 leagues would then.
Yes,
Super Bowl.
but we're both in the same league, so we can't.
So we would play each other to get to.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You wacky sports people. No, but I think for me, the most invested ever was the Vikings made it to the NFC Championships in 1998. And then Gary Anderson missed a kick and will forever be cursed.
It's always a missed kick.
It's always
Those
the
are
stupid kick.
heartbreaking.
It's rough.
Some
Because
missed kicks,
you
some
never
missed
want to
free
pin
throws.
everything on one guy on one moment, and those are like that's like the thing that feels like it's just one guy in one moment, you know?
Yeah.
I wonder, do you think somebody like that, like a kicker like Gary Anderson, do you think he still gets crap? Like if, you know, people see his
100%.
name, if he's like, you know, swiping his card at a grocery store in Minnesota, he still gets,
Totally.
you sports
100%.
fans. You sports
There's
fans need to
one
be nice.
thing remembered about the 1986 World Series, and it's that a ball went through Bill Buckner's legs
Right.
to extend the series, and that guy was a good player, and not a single person remembers that. They only remember that he screwed up in the World Series.
See, Haley, that's why you need your comfort stuffed animal, because if you just talk about one game in a disappointing way in the podcast, it'll forever be your legacy. Remember, as that one person who didn't talk about Hellblade 2 in a sufficient enough manner.
I'm so terrified to learn what clip it will be my legacy. I feel like maybe the Pal World stuff, because a bunch of people from Pal World started following me on Twitter. Did I tell you that?
No.
Like the creative team and stuff. Yeah. Like after that video went viral, they all followed me, and I was like, okay, I'll be more careful about what I tweet about.
I hope
Pal
it's
World, I
Mewtwo.
guess. Oh, it's probably Mewtwo.
Yeah, hope so.
Yeah.
And by the way, the goal is,
Everyone should listen to that Bill Buckner call, because it's Vin Scully in the World Series, and it's amazing. Even though it's like traumatic for a lot of people.
John Skovic writes in and says, what is a small quality of life mechanic that makes you instantly like a game more than games that don't have it? Mine is when a game with a dash lets you jump once, then dash in the air, then double jump. It's easily a +2 out of 10 on a review from me. Hell yeah, that's a great one.
I can't stand when games don't have a pause screen. I get that it's the point of some games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring or what have you, but God, I remember when I first got Sable and she was like an itty bitty puppy. That's when I was playing Elden Ring, and she kept just like that. The puppies be getting in their mouth every 10 seconds when you first get them, and you can't pause Elden Ring. And I died so many times of just like, Sable, what's in your mouth? Having to run. I'm not gonna choose Elden Ring over my new puppy. Like, I get that it's part of the vibe of the game. I just hate when games don't have a pause screen.
It's wild even when there's a single player game, not even like an online thing like from
I'm
software.
not even talking multiplayer. I'm talking like single player only.
Yeah,
Pause
but
screen.
like when you can't pause a cutscene in a single player game, it's like that is like a double whammy of like, what are you guys doing? How is this possible?
Pay attention.
No.
Look at our art.
For me, it's more and more games do it, and I love it. But when you go to a save thing and it says time since last save, or if you pause it and it says time since last save, like last save 2 minutes ago. So, okay, great.
Yeah.
So I can shut this game down and not worry about it. That's such a godsend.
Stellar Blade has that.
Ooh, that's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
You got one, Huber, that stands out for you?
I like a codex, like a video game journal where it's like the character profiles, and when it continually updates the story so far. Because, like, you know, life happens. You play other games maybe in between, or you don't play that game for a couple weeks. So I like being able to go back and be like, okay, who are these people? Who are, you know, what's the story? And I especially like when those entries add more lore than actually what's happening on screen. It'll like give you even a little more insight into stuff. I love that.
It's so good.
Did you like in Dragon's Dogma 2 how they had every single NPC in the entire game and their name in their likes and dislikes.
Insane.
Blood type. That's so good. Also, I love like Return to Monkey Island was maybe the best I've experienced recently of like giving you a recap option. If it's been a while since you played, you go back to it and they'll give you a great recap and give you like a whole custom written thing of like, here's exactly what you're trying to do at this moment in the game right now. And it's like, oh my God, it's just a godsend.
That's so nice.
Let's see. Lamb Dance. Good name. They were in. They said, who do you think was the first video game character people had a crush on? I thought about this. Okay, maybe Sonic. I thought about this because of that old ad for Pitfall. Do you remember Jack Black was in an old Pitfall commercial? I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's very fun. Jack Black appeared in it as a kid, and a girl in it says, "Since I met Pitfall Harry, no other man will do." So maybe Pitfall Harry thirst was real back in the day, and that was breaking barriers.
Was anyone actually attracted to Duke Nukem?
That's a great question. I think there's an audience.
He's kind of gross.
He's kind of gross. I agree.
Yeah.
He's gross. I bet there's an
Chad
audience
is saying
out there.
Miss Pac-Man.
Miss Pac-Man, I think, is a great suggestion.
Yeah, I feel like there's enough weirdos out there that it's probably just like a collection of 8 pixels, like
with a
like
bow.
Miss Pac-Man or something. Yeah.
But it's also...
well, and she's got those legs on the cabinet, you know?
Don't forget the legs. But like, I'm not trying to be a pervert. I'm not saying I'm into Miss Pac-Man. Not that there's anything wrong with that, I guess is what you need to say. But like, she's 8 pixels with a bow, but all she is a mouth. You know, it's like, in terms of like a whole thing, it's you can really kiss the hell out of her.
Jobson at it again.
Okay, Haley, please. That's
Never underestimate, weird Sonic fans. Like, look out.
I would love to know, like, talk to that Sonic 2 team or the Sonic 1 team. Like, when did the first bubble start to rise up of like, that character you designed? Something weird is happening with society because of it.
Something weird is going on.
Like, I bet they had no idea. Like, the original concept art and stuff. Like, I would just love to know. No. And, like, they just start to get fan art of, like, Sonic with his pants around his ankles. Like, what is it?
He just went there, man. I don't know.
Because no one has a crush on Mario. I don't
think so.
So they were like, oh, our titular main character for our new console. Perfect. And everyone's like, yeah, I want to bone that hedgehog. They're like, huh?
So confusing. Jason Wojnar has a similar question. They say,
Wojnar.
Yeah, there we go. I am 6 feet tall. The Wojnars are everywhere. Zach and Jason, they're all over Easy Allies. Zach was a former Game Informer intern.
Nice.
Also a ladies' man, I do recall, but I'm not getting into details. But Jason,
Ben, do they ask you about the film Billy Jack?
I'm sure that's come up.
Okay.
Yeah. It's usually about Eastern Europe. I feel like most of their questions relate to that. But Jason writes in, he says, I am 6 feet tall and I might go on a date. Hang on. This is an important detail that I missed the first time I heard this. I'm 6 feet tall and I might go on a date with a woman who is also 6 feet tall. At what point should I mention that the fact that she is 6 feet tall is really attractive to me? Do I open with it or wait a while? Now, the important word here that I caught the second time is might go on a date. What does that mean?
Maybe she hasn't said yes yet.
Maybe he's hoping and he's worried he's too short for her.
As long as it's not an unhealthy pining after this beautiful tall woman.
She doesn't even know he exists yet.
Right, yeah. I saw a 6 foot tall woman on the sidewalk and I have thoughts about the whole thing.
So I'm a tall woman. Every guy I've ever dated has been shorter than me. I guarantee you she's more nervous that you'll think she's too tall than you feel too short to date her. Like 100% guarantee that.
I mean, if you're showing interest in her, I don't think she's just like, I don't think she's going to immediately need or want the reassurance. Like, hey, by the way, like, don't lead with that. I don't think, like, if you're going to go on a date with her, she's already
or something.
Yeah.
Then be like, no, your height's great. Or like, don't be like, this is the most attractive thing about you, how tall you are. She might be like, okay.
It's nice to meet you. I love how tall you are so much.
It's giving like those Lady D lovers with the Resident Evil 8.
Right.
It's kind of like, okay, I like where your heart's at, but it's getting red a little bit. Step on me, mommy queen, and not enough like disrespect.
So I don't know the opposite end of this because I'm extremely short. But if someone told me that they were like into me because I was short, I would just shut that down. I'd be like, okay, we're done here. Like
that feels threatening. That feels like I'm happy I'm so much taller than you. why?
Yeah, it's confusing. I feel like either way. Of like, I'm really into this really short person, I'm really into this really tall person. It's like that shouldn't really be a factor. It's an odd.
You can have preferences. It's fine.
No,
it's just that
no preferences.
Oh no, not allowed.
No, life is better with zero sexual preferences, Haley.
It's hedgehogs or no preferences.
That's right.
I think if it comes up naturally or she kind of communicates some sort of insecurity about her height, that would be the time where she's looking for you to reassure that you don't care about that kind of stuff, which would feel good in the moment. Don't lead with it or try to bring it up unorganically and be weird. Just, go on a date.
Yeah, my high school sweetie was tall. And I loved dating somebody the same size as me. Like, I think it was cool. It was convenient. It made kissing easier. It was great.
Easier to lock eyes.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, baby. Yeah. Victor Jesus Moreno writes in and says, what are the best vibe games for just vibing? Journey.
I just replay Journey to go down the little sandy mountains and just vibe.
Yeah, just vibing. Yeah, Tetris Effect is tough to beat for me.
Tetris.
Like that first level that connected. I'll play that and then I'll go, I guess it's a pretty early level, but like that weird fire level where all the guys are like worshiping the fire god or whatever. It's so good.
Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Yeah, good one.
Huber proclaimed on the Easy Allies podcast one of the greatest games of all time, Sayonara Wild Hearts.
I would put it on a top 100 for sure.
Okay.
That's one of the best soundtracks of all time, too, in games.
For sure. For sure.
I don't know if you saw Kyle on, same developer is why I'm bringing this up, but Kyle apparently on Twitter is also in love with Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Haley. So we've
been DMing to help each other with puzzles.
Oh, really? All right. I see how it goes. Hazar Hello writes in and says, hey, everybody, the FTC recently placed a national ban on non-competes. I come from the world of commercial insurance, which is chock full of non-competes and non-solicitation agreements. So I've often wondered and wanted to ask if and how these types of agreements impact your jobs within games news media, especially due to the overlap and sharing of talent between MinnMax, Easy Allies, Game Informer, Kinda Funny, etc. Yeah, we make everybody at MinnMax sign a contract that's a non-compete, so they can't talk about games at Easy Allies or Game Informer.
And
or Kinda
I will
Funny.
tell you, that would be hella unenforceable right away. That would
Can you
never
imagine?
pass. Nope.
Don't even tweet about games, Jacob Keller. We get all of that.
Something rotten, shut it down.
Shut it down.
You're a MinnMax guy only.
Yeah, the only time
there was that weird ritual you had me do, Ben, with like the finger and the lights and the candles.
Right.
Oh, he did that for me too. Wait.
Yeah.
It's just kind of for fun. It's not like a legally binding ritual. Those are tough
What
to
was
get.
the goat's blood for and all that?
I was just thirsty, honestly, and that's all I had in the fridge. So I hope that's okay. No, I think when I left Game Informer, I remember a higher up did mention something about like, technically there's like a non-compete thing, GameStop, something. I was like, I don't think that's going to be an issue. And believe it or not, nobody at GameStop cared until at some point, I think we talked about GameStop and then I got a little nudge that said, GameStop paid attention and they were pissed about MinnMax. And I was like, okay, sure. I don't know who these I was like, I don't know who these GameStop people are going to, who they are, but they'll be fired or walk away with millions of dollars within a month. So whatever, I don't care.
I think what a lot of people don't know is non-competes, depending on your jurisdiction, could be largely unenforceable. And like the point of a non-compete is you're supposed to have enough really juicy info or like context about how the company operates or whatever, that if you went to a different company, you could completely undermine the first company and run them out of business. And you have to be pretty titular and core to the whole purpose of the company. And that's where that thought comes from. So, and you even when it's someone big like that, like the CEO or something, you still have to scope it into like a specific location, timeline, that kind of thing. So a lot of times devs will have non-compete clauses and we'll be talking to them about them. It's like, oh, you can't work in all of America in games at all, and you were just a software engineer. We're like, okay,
That's
sure.
absurd. How silly.
It's just trying to be, too pushy.
Is everybody ready for the butt kissing of the century?
Yeah.
Prepare your keisters. Riley writes in and says, hey, everyone, you all take massive risks. Ben with MinnMax, Huber with the Allies, Kelsey with the stores, that's Pink Gorilla Games, and Haley with a niche area of law. Where do you draw your courage from? And what more practical advice would you give people to inspire risk-taking?
In picking the career?
I guess so.
What they mean?
I think that's the idea.
I'm going to be completely honest here and say that almost all of it, like I made all these decisions when I was in my early 20s and I thought I knew everything. And I don't think I'd make all the same decisions now. having grown up a little bit and feeling less risky. So I think there's something to, I don't know, being smart enough and young enough to feel like, oh, I can totally do this. Like,
right.
This is, yeah. And it's scarier once you start learning more about it and know how much you don't know rather than just how much you know.
And so the leap was when you bought the store that you worked for, just that idea of like, you don't think you would have dropped that much money to buy the store?
Yeah, I mean, I had the confidence that we could turn it around. I don't know where that confidence came from in hindsight. I mean, like,
right.
I do, but like, I don't know if that confidence would have been as strong and as driving, you know, given another decade on my life or something like that. And same with, you know, I used to make a lot of like YouTube content about game history stuff, and like the older I get, the like more I'm like, well, I can't possibly know everything, so I can't possibly release this into the world. I haven't excavated every piece of information, and so how can I possibly get this out there? And when I was just not even that much younger, but like 5 years younger, I had the confidence to do it. So I think it gets harder with age, weirdly.
Yeah, you get more self-conscious or whatever. But Hubert,
yeah.
Did you feel like it was a courageous act to launch Easy Allies back in the day?
I mean, we all got fired right before that, so it didn't seem that risky because it's like we have nothing to lose. We all just got fired from game trailers. Like, I either go back and work at a restaurant or we just try this thing. I think the biggest like risk in my life was just like going to college to major in journalism, which was like expensive, and then trying to use that as leverage to try to get a job with a magazine. So just like going on the path originally, but like Kelsey was saying, like, when you're young, you just like, I didn't think I could do it. I just knew I could do it. I was like, I'm just going to do this. But then, yeah, as you get older, it's like you just start second guessing and like thinking differently.
And I think you just also have more to lose later too.
Yeah,
like, you know, if you screw up really badly when you're 23, like even at 23, I was like, I'll figure it out from there. But you know, the older you get and the more responsibilities you have. I mean, Ben, you've got a kid now. Like, I imagine that the risk becomes a little bit scarier as you kind of add pieces of stability to your life.
Yeah. Like, I've talked about it before, but, you know, back in that period of Game Informer, when I left to form MinnMax, like after there were all those layoffs and stuff, like people are very sweet, and people send me Patreon messages are like, oh, it was so brave of you to start MinnMax and leave your full-time job. That's very sweet. It genuinely felt like the safer move to just get away from GameStop's blast radius. Like I just, and the mood in that company at the time was so bad that it was like, this is a better, safer move, is I just need to get the hell out of here. And so it felt like taking the safer route in some ways. But that said, you know, I'd probably be pretty freaked out. I don't know if I'd do it if I had a family back then, you know? I don't know if I'd gamble everything on Patreon like we did back in 2019. And so that counts for something. That's a weird thing to think about, just how that lined up when it's like, well, I have a supportive girlfriend and a room in the basement that I could turn into a studio, and let's go, you know, but I didn't have to factor in like, okay, mortgage, blah, 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 all that nonsense. Mm-hmm. And Haley, you are a hero. So congratulations.
Well, what I was going to say is whenever you see someone doing something they like want to do, or it seems like they're successful, there's so many, I failed like 8,000 times before I found something I like doing. Like I did the exact same thing Hubert did. I went to journalism school to try to stand out in the games journalism market because it was so competitive. And it didn't work. I failed. I applied to every single games journo job I could and worked at retail and did part-time like freelance work for 4 years straight, and I couldn't get a job. That's why I went into law. It's like, sometimes you kind of just fail into something you end up liking better. And yeah, I don't know.
It's weird how it works. Kelsey Sims writes in, they say, early on in the season of Survivor, there was a segment where two players were listing off Metallica and Taylor Swift songs to each other to see who could name the most. It was surprising how long they went, and it got my partner and I wondering, first of all, Survivor is still the greatest show on television. It absolutely rules. And this segment was so fun. They each got like well over 100 songs into this back and forth
Nice.
of Metallica and
Wow.
Taylor Swift songs. And it's funny because like my wife is a big Taylor Swift fan and she was watching it. She's like, there's no logic. He should just go album by album. He's jumping all over the place. What is he doing? He's like critiquing his Taylor Swift form. But it got me and my partner wondering what we could name the most of. What do you all
And
think?
we're not talking like name, types of things in this room or something really. It had to be like a popular culture thing.
I think so, yeah. So they decided
Yeah.
Pokemon they could name more than anything.
That's what I was going to say.
That was gonna
I
be
think
my
Pokemon.
answer.
I could
Yeah.
probably get like 175.
Nice.
I think.
Good.
I mean, I'm not actually doing it, Haley. I'm just saying a number, but
Just doing the Poke Rap and then like 50 more.
right. How many do you think you two could get? Mewtwo could get.
I'd say
Oh, I think I really like. How long am I allowed to go between answers? Because I think I could get into like 300 or 400 if I'm
Whoa.
granted like a minute
Really think
cooldown every
about
once
it.
in a while.
yeah.
Cool down. I
Yeah,
gotta
one
put my
minute cooldown.
brain in an ice jar. It's weird. We did this on an old episode of the Game Informer show. And this was like
I
before.
remember that.
It was oh wow, yeah, it was before Pokemon Go and stuff. Back when Pokemon was cool. So I just say that because it was like a time before the original 150 were kind of like reintroduced and fresh again, But yeah, it was
Yeah.
Dan Tack saying League of Legends characters and me trying to name Pokemon from the original generation and going back and forth. And I think I forget who won, who could name more.
I
but-
remember, but that's stuck in my head too for some reason.
It was
I don't
really
know why
fun.
that piece of content has stuck in my head.
And then the
But
weird
I
thing too,
distinctly remember you two doing that.
Kelsey Sims wrote in with this question too, and it's like, we literally this Monday I pitched this as a new show plus option that we might be doing next week in the poll, and the reason was also because of that segment from Survivor that I've been thinking about a lot. Of like that is such a fun challenge of just like how many things can you name, but like Huber, like video games would have to be it, right?
Yeah.
Or movies.
Ooh.
I can
Oh, I
name
could
a
do-
lot of movies.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I could name video game because I mean, I'm in a game store, many days of my life, so I can just kind of like visualize the PS2 section, visualize
Right.
the Super Nintendo section.
Yeah.
Plus, you
That'll
got
be easier.
you got the layup of like Madden 07, Madden 08, Madden 09, Madden 10,
Yeah.
which by the way, a lightning bolt hit my brain this weekend where I realized like, wait, is this the year where Madden's going to have to contend with the fact that they called Madden 25 a while back? Remember, because they had the 25th
right.
anniversary, they called Madden 25, and it's like, well, that's going to be confusing when we get to 2024, but we're here now.
Maybe
they
they'll
just
do
gonna call it
Madden
Madden?
2025.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why I hadn't considered that until just this moment, but I assume they're just going to call it 2025.
Yeah, that's gross though. I think 25-2, I think is probably a more clean way to go for it.
25 dash
But, like-
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Roman numerals.
Hubert, baseball players?
I could name like 100 plus, maybe. But
Okay.
not,
Really
yeah.
good.
I think that's where I'm at too. I think
Yeah.
video games still would trump baseball players,
Yeah.
but I think I could go for a while.
Haley, laws?
I think you think there's just laws somewhere written on the ground, and
Penal
I think that's
codes?
where you're going to reference them.
It's, thou shalt not steal. Thou
Nicholas Cross writes in, says, I asked this in Discord, but I'd be curious to hear Kelsey's advice on selling retro video game collections, whether it's directly or to a retro video game store. What can I
tag
do
me.
to make the whole thing more smoothly?
The smoothest thing is to just drop it off at a game store, but if you have a really big collection, you can often just kind of like talk to them ahead of time, especially if you know it's stuff that's going to be like very lucrative for them. Like, I'm just going to assume your collection is not filled with Madden's, 2002 through whatever. But if it's like pretty good stuff, you can always contact them ahead of time and be like, look, I would like to do this all at once, but I am, hoping to get X percentage or something like, just some kind of like, do you think that's doable? Do you think that's reasonable? Not every game store is going to work with you that way, but I think a lot of them will when it's at a big enough scale.
Yeah.
I mean, that's certainly the easiest to make it easiest for the game store, if that's the route you go. Trying to pack things up in boxes by console and stuff, and bundling all of if you're doing consoles and stuff, like bundling all your cords together. I just take a gallon Ziploc bag and just put, okay, there's the controller and the power cord and the video cord for the PS2, and, putting those together.
Yeah.
But another good way to get rid of it is see if you have any retro game store or retro game shows locally, like a Portland Retro Gaming Expo or something like that, even a smaller one. Tables are usually between $200 and $500, and if you have a really big collection, I've seen a lot of people just like price out all their own stuff and just sell it that, and then you can sell a huge amount of it and charge, maybe not quite what a retro game store is charging, but like 90% of what it goes for. And then people will be like, ooh, that's a little bit of a deal. And you can get rid of a lot of it that way, and then maybe just, sell the rest to a game store or something like that. But yeah, I would just plan to, box things up nicely. I would caution you from going the eBay route. You can totally do some like Facebook Marketplace and like find local people, but I would caution against eBay unless you are an experienced eBay seller, because not only are there a lot of fees, shipping, and then the IRS gets a report at the end of the year from eBay about how much you sold and what it was all worth and everything. So you do have to report on that. But also, if you have like an eBay account that doesn't have a lot of feedback, it's very easy to get scammed, and eBay always sides with the buyer, not the seller. So, not literally always, but I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, I'll sell my expensive stuff on eBay and, sell the rest to a game store. And then they lose their $500 item and the $500 they made from it because someone's like, oh, I never received it, or it was,
yuck. Do you get a lot of smart Alex calling up and saying like, oh, could I bring this in, and arguing with you about the price of things?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And lots of people I feel for people. I really do. Like, they bought their Xbox One for $300 and now we sell them used for like $80. It's like they are just not worth anything anymore. And like, yeah, it bums people out to get an offer of $40 or $50 for a thing they spent $300 on, but that's just the nature of supply and demand, unfortunately.
The basics. This person got me to say it. How this whole thing operates, writes in, and they say, you've stepped into an alternate reality where U.S. currency has been replaced by the 1999 commemorative gold-plated Pokemon cards from Burger King. So welcome to this new reality, everybody.
Wow.
I have $4.
So they want to know which Pokemon represent which denominations in U.S. currency.
And for the Mew one.
Okay.
Mew one's like $1 million.
Well, okay. So for reference, the Pokemon gold-plated cards for the 1999 Burger King are Pikachu, Jigglypuff, Charizard, Poliwhirl, Mewtwo, and Togepi.
Was there no Mew? Wasn't there an ancient Mew?
I think that was if you went to the movie.
Not the gold.
Oh.
Yeah,
this was like a Burger King promo. They're like these very solid. I don't know if you have Burger King in Canada. For some reason there was a Mew one. We have Burger King. Don't worry, we do. We know what that is. You don't have Target. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Burger King came and bought Tim Hortons and ruined Tim Hortons. Anyways, that's a separate rant. Yeah.
Okay, there's no universe where Mewtwo isn't the $100 bill, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there is an argument for it being Togepi because that's the only one of the next generation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Doesn't that kind of hit more like a $50 though? Togepi.
I think, yeah. Is it like a rarity thing? There's something kind of cool. Maybe because Togepi is the only one from the next generation as the tease, it should just be the $1 bill.
No, that's Pikachu. Pikachu's got to be on the one.
Jigglypuff isn't the $1?
Jigglypuff's like a $5.
Yeah.
I think Charizard is a nice like $20 bill.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. And Poliwhirl's 10. Because 10s are like kind of, they're not useless, but like they're, I don't know. We don't really know why we have $10 bills.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that Togepi is the $50 bill?
That kind of feels right to me.
It does feel right to me too.
But I'll concede. I'll concede.
Mewtwo would just pinch his fingers like this, and your head would explode if he knew that you put him at a 50.
Power levels, though.
Yeah, we're not ranking how much Haley likes
George
them.
Washington could destroy a Lincoln or
I mean, that's how it works. Yeah. Benjamin Franklin kicked everybody's ass in a fight, and that's why he gets to be on the hundo. I think that's how it works. It's very clear. All right, what do y'all like for a question of the week? I like the Nintendogs question. We haven't gotten that.
Was
that one.
great.
I like the sports moment.
I did too.
Haley perving out with the video game that people had a crush on, the earliest example there.
Great questions today.
I know.
Yeah,
we got so many. We got so many. Where do you draw your courage from was a unique one. We are courageous. You're right. I'm leaning sports, but I don't know where everybody else is at.
I
We'll go
love
with
the
that.
Nintendogs one, but I feel like
Nintendogs
the
and
sports one's
sports.
going to win.
Okay, Kelsey, you're breaking the tie.
Okay. I think sports over Nintendogs.
There we go.
But I had fun with all of these questions.
Okay.
Great questions.
There we go. Congratulations, Connor McCabe. You just won that Chicory piano soundtrack thanks to I'm 8-Bit. Now it's time for something that we call... Oh, by the way, thank you to everybody who wrote in for all those questions. It's truly fantastic. You make the show better each and every week, so appreciate it. Okay, and now it's time for something that we call Get a Load of This.
Probably synced perfectly.
It was beautiful. Hey, get a load of this. The Kit and Krista podcast. I think they're doing a great job over there with their Patreon. They are trying so many ideas. And the Kit and Krista podcast, I really enjoy. And Haley, sparked by, what are you doing?
If my dog barked and scared the shit out of me because she was so quiet, I'm so bad.
What? You're so courageous. The person wrote in about it. You can't be scared of a dog bark. So Kit worked on PR for Playboy the Mansion, the game. The game that you played, with Leo for New Show Plus a while ago. And so, it was very sweet. They said like, oh, this is because MinnMax played Playboy the Mansion that we needed to talk about this. But it's interesting hearing Kit's perspective of like, working with the developers a bit and working with Playboy. And he's like, it was surprising how many women I was working with. Like it was a strangely women-led project. And to the point that I didn't look into this, but Brenda Romero was the lead designer on Playboy the Mansion.
Whoa.
Oh my God, I knew that, and that was some hidden knowledge tucked away.
Yeah.
Wow.
I forgot that. That's fantastic.
It was funny because there was almost little threads of like, hey, did a woman make this cake?
Really, you could
the
feel
women
it?
would be like vice president, and they would come and visit and be the vice president. And like Leo and I were trying to play it not grossly, so we're like, Miss, like trying to get her interview for the magazine and stuff. And you would think that they'd all just be models, and you'd just take pics of them. But there was a lot of women in power that you would interview for columns for the magazine. In that
There we
game.
go. Thanks to Brenda or anybody else on
and
that
they
team.
take their
for
shirt
making it
off, and you're like, okay, sure.
I looked up the final cutscene for that game. Not to be pervy, but I was just looking up, like trying to find the credits. And somebody shared that when you beat the game, it just cuts to like a live action video of who's Mr. Man? Hugh Hefner. Yeah, just like Andy Serkis at the end of Enslaved, Hugh Hefner pops up and he's like, hey, it took a lot of skill to beat this game. Why don't you apply that in your real life? You can do anything. It's like a weird motivational message from Hugh Hefner at the end of this thing. It's weird. Anyways.
If you work hard and study hard, you can have a Playboy mansion of your own.
Pick yourself up by the bootstraps, kid.
Or the boob
Class
straps.
actions, just like me.
Anybody else want to toss out one?
That was good.
It's not good, please.
It was something.
Will somebody please jump in with get a load of this so we can move on from boob straps?
Get a load of this. You know what's back? Neopets is back.
Oh.
Neopets is like not owned by some weird edutainment company anymore. They're, I believe, just owned, like kind of worker owned right now. I should have looked up the exact specifics, but it's all like they're kind of having a renaissance right now. And the game, I think, is about to turn 25 and it's still going. I jumped back in. I don't have access to my old account anymore. I've been begging the poor support person. I'm like, it's been 20 years. I don't remember who my Neo friends were. Help me out here. But Yeah, they seem to have fixed the economy a little bit. There's a little bit of like not pay to win, just pay to get some fun cosmetics and stuff going on. But it's none of it seems very predatory at all. It's actually, if you used to be into Neopets, go check it out again, because it's actually kind of hopping right now.
That's cool.
I think our old items, like if we were to get into our old accounts, would be worth a ton of stuff now.
No, it's actually, I think, mostly the opposite. Like,
oh darn,
most of the paintbrushes are like a lot more affordable now.
Okay.
But they have retired some like pets and stuff. So if you have some of the ones that they've retired, those are worth like crazy amount.
Nice.
It's like the millennial version of Bitcoin mining. It's like what pets can you get?
Yeah, I did. I described it to my partner as trying to get into a Bitcoin wallet. I'm like,
Hubert Haley?
Get a load of this. I love Resident Evil. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time. There are rumors that Resident Evil 1 is getting another remake.
Yeah.
These rumors have been going on for a little while, but in the last week, a lot more traction. Multiple insiders have come out and kind of shared some tidbits of it. But it's looking like 2025 Resident Evil 1 remake coming out. The rumors were that Crimson Heads will return. It'll be slower paced, just like the original, but it'll be third person, not fixed cameras, which kind of bums me out, but whatever.
Ooh, you want the
kind
fixed
of the
cameras.
whole vibe.
I mean, you got that HD version of the GameCube remake that's so damn good. Like,
if you're remaking it again, I mean, do something different. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I want him to make like a smaller Resident Evil that is like fixed cameras, like the older ones.
That'd be interesting.
Some weird, like a spinoff, really small, because like we're talking about Crow Country, Ben, just how big these like PS1 style games are now. It's like, if Resident Evil had like a big budget and made like a old throwback like that, it'd be crazy.
Would you prefer Crow Country have fixed cameras over the dynamic camera?
For that one, no.
Okay. All right. That gets a pass.
I like it.
That's not cool.
Yeah. It is nice that you can like move it around and stuff.
Yeah. Haley?
Get a load of this. I was going to do it before you even were going to nudge me, Ben. Get a load of this. This is, I don't know about you guys, but I'm whenever a show gets rebooted, like a childhood show, I care a lot about if the theme song still hits or not.
Of course.
And every single time it doesn't hit, but the Fairly Odd Parents is getting it's not even a reboot, I think it's like a sequel series, and it's the first time in my memory where a show I watched as a kid has a better theme song in the new version. It's the same theme song, it's just they mixed up the beat rhythms and stuff, and like some of the lyrics are different, and it literally hits. Like, it's so good. I had it on loop on my phone when I was putting makeup on before the podcast. I was like, why is this hitting so good?
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Hey, get a load of this from the community. There's a Discord channel where people just share cool news stories and tidbits all day long, and it's the greatest news feed you can imagine. And it's not covered in porn like Twitter, so check it out, everybody. You get access to it if you're a $2 supporter on Patreon. You get sent a message, and that includes the link to the Discord. But this is self-serving, so I apologize. But Shipwright shared an interview that Hard Drive did, tying all these themes together. Hard Drive, which is that parody site, but this is a real interview, kind of like people get confused with The Onion. This is an actual interview that one Haley McLean did, along with me, talking about MinnMax stuff. Just talking about the state of MinnMax, independent games media, all that funky stuff. So there's a link below if you want to check out that interview with Hard Drive there. That's it for this episode of the podcast. Kelsey, you got something you wanted to plug?
Yeah, it's not out for pre-order yet, I don't think, but if you happen to back my book on Kickstarter, the Boss Fight Books Kickstarter, it's out for you as a backer, the digital version. So hopefully we'll have some news about digital and physical versions for people who missed that the first time around soon.
Yeah.
You wrote a book on boss fights?
No, sorry. Boss Fight Books is a publisher of books. And I wrote it about Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing, sick.
The opposite of boss fights, Animal Crossing.
Tom Nook is the ultimate boss.
Yeah.
I guess that is true.
Capitalism.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Haley, what do you got going on?
I was just going to mention that I'm on the latest episode of Something Rotten with Blake Hester and Jacob Geller, and I played through the first Max Payne just to talk about it with them. Leo was part one,
yeah,
and then I was part two.
Oh, that's cool. You can subscribe
check that
to
out.
Something Rotten there. We got a lot going on at MinnMax here. Oh, by the way, Huber, Easy Allies podcast. I really enjoyed you hosting last episode. That was super fun.
Nice, thank you.
You always have this energy, I feel like, of like when Blood's away, is like, oh, is this going off the rails? But like, you want a podcast to be 8% going off the rails at all times. And I feel like you hit that.
Did that happen this episode, Ben? Do you feel like it was 8% off the rails?
I don't know.
Maybe 11.
Oh, you're going higher. Okay, could be.
Yeah.
I made that hand job joke a few too many times.
Yeah, you got to stop with this. You got to let it die, Haley. Anyways, hey, a lot of stuff going on here at MinnMax on Patreon. The big thing is the Town Showdown. We had a stream last week where we narrowed down the list of hundreds and hundreds of towns that people submitted to be the location of the next big MinnMax community meetup happening in September. We got it down to 7. And that poll is currently running on Patreon. So if you're a Patreon supporter at even the $2 tier, you can vote for where all of us are going to be going in September. We're all going to get on a plane and come to one of these 7 towns. And you can sway this vote right now if you're also planning on attending that community meetup, because we want to get a good idea of the number of people attending as well. Currently, front runner is Asheville, North Carolina, which I'm surprised by. Number 2 is Akron, Ohio, and number 3 is Williamsburg, Virginia. If you read the description for Williamsburg, I feel like it could put up a real good fight, because it's like got ghost tours, Busch Gardens amusement park. There's also like a water park there. There's a weird field with a bunch of board game event.
My brother jumped on the beds in a hotel room, and my dad was like, if you keep jumping on those beds, we're not going to go to Busch Gardens.
Oh.
And we kept jumping on the bed, and we never went to Busch Gardens.
This could be the chance. Send us all to Busch Gardens, everybody, if you vote for Williamsburg. Also a big field with giant president heads in it. And there's Ohio, which has a blimp hangar. So what do you want? But also,
You go look at that.
Charles Hart is in Ohio, and he was trying to nudge folks to be like, if you have the meetup in Ohio, I'll be there. And also Jeff Grubb was like, we're also in Ohio, we can be there. So that's a factor. But Asheville, North Carolina looks beautiful too. So go there and vote. But Ohio people, you could sway this right now. You're only a couple votes away, and you can choose for our planes to be rerouted halfway through the flight, and we'll go to Akron, Ohio instead of Asheville, North Carolina. You can choose it right now by becoming a Patreon supporter or jumping over there on Patreon, locking in that
Remember
whole
when we were
vote.
worried about swaying the vote too much, and now we're actually asking people to
I think
vote
it's
for
more
certain
fun.
cities.
And also, Ketchum, Idaho is in last place, which breaks my heart because I really wanted to go to that small mountain town. I thought that looked
Say
awesome.
the joke that you said in Slack, that how did we never think of?
Oh, yeah. I think the Discord said it, to be fair. But they said, we have a town called Asheville and a town called Ketchum. And we didn't ever make a joke about Asheville, Ketchum in any way, which is shameful. We're not professionals. Let's see. We have Doc Lightning going on, of course. Did someone say hello, by the way? Who was that?
I said hello because we were so dumb. We didn't
Honestly, I was really freaked out because like that sounded like Sarah saying hello, and I didn't see Haley's lips moving. Like, did Sarah jump into this call?
You've been playing
I've
too
got
much
her
Senua.
over here.
Oh, yeah. Senua. Anyways, Doc Lightning going on, which is our short documentary film festival. Not competition, it's a whole festival. So throughout this month, we are asking the MinnMax community to create documentaries, even with their phone. Super simple, any topic under the sun. Interview a family member for under 3 minutes. Those need to be under 3 minutes. We have a post up on Patreon with free editing software, all that stuff you need. We have a whole Discord channel if you're looking for help. But that's going to be ending at the end of May, and then we're going to have that film festival and watch all these things back to back. I think like already 8 people have already submitted. Which is impressive. Yeah. So you have until the end of May to submit your short documentary. Looking forward to seeing everybody's entries in a big fun stream. Bonus Pod, our Patreon exclusive podcast. If you're a $5 supporter, you get a bonus podcast. I'd argue it's the companion show to the MinnMax show that Haley McLean hosts, and it's damn good each and every week. And you get that right in your favorite podcast app. If you want to more than double the amount of podcasts from MinnMax each and every week, that is the tier for you, that $5 tier on Patreon. This week is a geeky one. Haley and I run through a bunch of MinnMax businessy questions. It felt a little bit like the old Cup of Jones, Huber. I don't know if you ever listened to those, but like just business questions about like the state of MinnMax. If you ever wanted to go behind the scenes for a small company, small media company like MinnMax, we get into numbers, we get into salaries, not for everybody revealing, but just like the payment structure of MinnMax, all that stuff, merch details. It's a geeky episode if you want to check that out. And next week we have a guest, Haley, lined up.
Haley DeBoom's coming on next week.
There we
Trying
go.
to lock her down for months.
She's tricky. We've been trying, everybody. I know we promised more Haley DeBoom
cool.
at the start of the year, but DeBoom is on the way. Here come DeBoom next week on Bonus Pod. So you can unlock that at the $5 tier. It's going to be fun. The most beloved guest of all time on the MinnMax show. Now she's finally on Bonus Pod, coming soon. But also, speaking of numbers, Wall of Heroes. Thanks, everybody. We lowered that tier to $50. For $50, you can put any image you want on every MinnMax video rotating through in that slideshow. We had a ton more people jump up and try it out for May, which is awesome. But just a reminder that you can also jump up $50 tier to put any image you want throughout the month of June. And I want to remind you, the month of June is the Summer Game Fest month, and so it's going to be probably our biggest month of the year. It's up there with December. So if you want any image you want for your small company, for your Instagram, picture of your pet, picture of your face, picture of your favorite game. What else do we got? What else can people promote? Twitch.
Inside jokes.
Inside jokes.
Those are my favorite.
I love that stuff. You know, we had, record stores in Australia, like just cool things that people are promoting this month. But you can get that seen millions and millions of times, literally. Like just for the numbers here, we average 360,000 views per month on YouTube. And so you do that in a slideshow that rotates every 10 minutes. Like that's a lot of views on this image for $50, and you help support independent games media at the same time. So you can jump in there throughout the month of June, lock in something before the end of the month there. We appreciate everybody trying it out. Also, just a reminder, and I'm not trying to confuse people, but it's a weird thing. We have the big poll happening now for the community meetup in September, but we also are having a community meetup in LA in June here. On Sunday, June 9th, we will be at Button Mash Arcade at 7 p.m. Pacific in LA. So if you're in LA, if you're out there for Summer Game Fest or whatever, Sunday, June 9th, 7 p.m., we will be at the Button Mash Arcade. We're teaming up with our friends at Glitch, which is the indie game publisher and old friends of ours, and just hanging out at an arcade. It'll be a casual meetup, but come swing by, say hello, just in case you don't want to go to Asheville, North Carolina, or Akron, Ohio, or Ketchum, Idaho, and all that fun stuff. I think that's it. Have we done it, everybody?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Great. That sounds good. Oh, let's see. Somebody's saying your image will be... Yeah, Crowboy says, watching us live at the Backstage Pass here, your image will be on the same screen as Jeff Keighley during the SGF stream if you join the Wall of Heroes. You could put a silly picture of Jeff Keighley on the Wall of Heroes that'll rotate through during the Keighley shows. Don't make it offensive or we won't put it on, but if you want to make Keighley making a silly face, we'll put that on the screen. That seems fine. You can take shots at the top dog, right, Huber?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Are you
Jeff Keighley the top
He's
dog?
such a good sport.
he feels top dog?
Game space top dog?
I don't know. Huber, how many hours have you spent in the same room as Jeff Keighley in your life?
Quite a few, actually.
Okay.
Like more than 50, less than 100. Probably.
Okay, great. And you would describe him as top dog?
Do I think Keighley's top dog?
Yeah.
100%.
100% top dog.
Yeah, dude. Summer Game Fest and Game Awards, that's top of the mountain right there.
Woof, woof. All right, everybody. That's it for this episode of the MinnMax Show. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Thanks, everybody, for being on and jumping to the community. Everybody at the Backstage Pass here. Thank you to everybody for supporting independent games media. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Be good. Have fun. Let's go.